Okay. Here to kind of critique my performance, I guess, on this little discussion I had with G-Man a couple weeks ago. Meant to do it earlier, but unfortunately I work a lot. Uh, I'm going to say right now it was definitely kind of a dumpster fire. The title alone was not the title of the debate that I agreed to. This was supposed to basically just be a discussion between, whether I was more moral than G-Man, uh, and then it turned into whether my morality or his morality would be better for America, and then it turned into, well, is atheism or Christianity better for America? So I didn't choose the topic. It was just something that I got into to finally get into a discussion with G-Man. Uh, First debate, figured I had to start somewhere. I'll also be paying attention to the side chat, which I wasn't really doing a whole lot during the debate itself. And then, of course, I do have some receipts up there on the top that I can switch over to in certain situations when I'm talking about some of the things that we did discuss. Uh, so I guess without further preliminaries, let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Hey,
Okay, first of all, let's take a look at the chat real quick. Yes, G-Man is Christian. Apparently, YouTube is forbidden for Jehovah's Witnesses. I wasn't aware of that. The song is definitely addictive. It's an earworm. Uh, that's very mature, Dr. Heath. Atheism is cancer, no matter where in the world it exists. See here, this is a horrible mistake, and shame on you for hosting it with popcorn. Okay, Venice. Native atheist, here to watch G-Man get beat yet again. Native atheist, I did notice a few of yours, yeah, especially the greetings from Oklahoma. And Frank Christian, G-Man wins.
everybody. Today we are debating what is better for America's future, Christian or secular ethics, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here. Oh boy, it's going to be an epic one, folks. A truly epic one. Very excited as we have G-Man and Johnny here to debate what is best for America's future. And I want to let you know, if this is your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we've got a lot more debates coming up. And in fact, we do indeed we are so excited to mention this, our debate tour is roughly booked. We've got the speakers, we're lining up the venues and tying those last minute details up. We're going to be on tour in Texas. Inspiring Philosophy and Matt Dillahunty will be debating on Modern Day Debate, and it's on God's existence. That's going to be an epic one. And
I'm going to point out right here, we actually had a discussion in the previous or in the pre-chat where G-Man was having issues with his camera. That's why if you noticed, his camera was flickering in and out for a second, and then it just kind of shut off altogether. Let's see here. Would Eric Hovind debate any better than Kent? Probably not. Kent's got that used car salesman mentality where he's actually got the charisma to pass himself off as believable. Eric Hovind, he just kind of rehashes his dad stuff, and he's not really very convincing with it. G-Man gets salty every time. Why does he keep coming back? See, that's one thing that I have issues with right there. I mean, yes, I have issues with G-Man because he's a creationist. I have issues with certain other people here, whether it be vegans or flat earthers, and there's a few other sects there that I have issues with. I can still be civil with them. Civility is one thing that I pride myself on. I'm not about to just start immediately talking trash about somebody, regardless of whether I want to or not. I do have critiques of people. Let's see here. Atheism results in moral relativism. It can. There are quite a few people that believe that morals themselves can be objective, which I disagree with. I believe that they can be objectively measured, but that's a different side of yeah, that's a different side of the coin there. Let's see, we should get the list of words banned in the comments. Agnostic atheist triggered. The whole agnostic atheist thing is that's actually the full title. I am an atheist because I don't believe that God exists. I am not asserting that God does not exist, like most theists that I've talked to recently have apparently attempted to put in my mouth. I just don't find the claims that I've heard for God to be convincing enough for me to believe it. That's why it's agnostic atheist. Didn't really miss anything else, so we'll get back to it.
Bosch and Hovind are going to be debating. We are working on getting Hovind in RN Raw. It's not an easy task, but we're going to try. So with that, though, want to let you know we are pumped to have you here, folks. Whether you be Christian, atheist, or one of the many strange creatures in between, want to let you know we are glad you are here and hope you feel welcome. Also, thanks so much to our speakers. The debaters are really the lifeblood of the channel, and so we really do owe the debaters, and I'm thankful that they come on here, because if you guys had to listen to me debate myself every night, it would be so sad. So, with that, they are both linked in the description, and that Vosh versus Hovind debate, by the way, is going to be on creation versus evolution. I just saw that in the live chat, somebody asked. So, with that, thank you guys for being here. Given that forgive me guys, I didn't ask who wanted to start. Do either of you have a preference on who would actually be starting in this conversation? That's right. Johnny, I know you have an opening statement. So do you want to do that still?
I'm not really partial to whether I can do it or not. It was basically more of an introduction than anything else.
Cool. Well, and then we get to know you a little bit more. So we're excited to have you here for the first time. So if you want to, we would be happy for you to share that. G-Man's trying to show us his furry costume. That's a nice furry costume in the background there, G-Man. That's terrific. You and Steven. All right. So anyway, Johnny, the floor is yours. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny. I also go by Carnivorous Ape on YouTube, which states both my opinion on evolution, my diet, and, of course, my general big and hairiness. I'd like to shout out to my little monkeys that are watching from upstairs, too. And I'm an ordained minister for atheism. I've got my ordainment right down here. I'm actually starting a branch of a ministry called Sunday Assembly here in Oklahoma to create a support community for atheists like myself who's been ostracized by the general community. I'm happy to say that I've gotten a lot of support by the surprising number of non-religious people in my town, as well as my first death threat by an older self-proclaimed Baptist in the middle of Walmart who offered to personally show me his God. So, yeah, that was actually kind of funny. I still get a kick out of that when I have to tell people that. That's always fun. I'm done.
That's terrific. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm so sorry that happened to you, is what I meant to say. It's a good story, though. But if you feel good with that, we will go right into the open conversation. So thanks for being here again, both Johnny and G-Man. And
okay, I did notice that the minister for atheism. Yeah, I agree. It's funny. The story behind that is actually I got that specifically because a friend could not find a person to marry her to her fiance because apparently lesbian relationships are not supported by the church, and I offered to get a ministry, get registered with the county, and everything like that, so I could actually perform their marriage for them. Now, that didn't actually end up happening. in that situation, I still have not performed a marriage, but I am legally able to do it.
Whichever one of you would like to make the case for your particular ethical brand, we're ready for it.
G-Man, you want to go first? Or you want me to?
I think he's saying you can.
Okay. Well, the topic of the debate is atheism or Christianity better for America? Personally, I'm strolling towards the sides of secularism just for the simple fact that we don't have a doctrine, which puts it just a hair ahead of Christianity because it's actually free to experiment. My personal moral view on that is we are allowed as many freedoms as are justifiable, provided they don't infringe upon the freedoms of others. Which means that if you are opposed to abortion, then don't get one. But it shouldn't be completely blanket statement illegal for the fact that we're always finding different ways of different procedures and stuff that would be considered abortions that could kill the mother just because, like in the case of an ectopic pregnancy or a tubal pregnancy. They just passed a law in Ohio where supposedly the senator looked at the paper, saw that somehow you could take the embryo out and reimplant it, didn't bother reading the thing, and passed it into law. And needless to say, that basically means that a woman who gets an ectopic pregnancy and has to have it removed will be facing abortion charges in Ohio because some lazy senator couldn't do his job right. So I do believe that there are certain things that are, issues like that, but a lot of.
Pause it right here for a second. The one that I was talking about right here, this is actually from Snopes. I'll leave a link in the description when I post this. But it's this was actually fact checking it, and it's literally Ohio House Bill 413, which is known as the abortion murder bill. He didn't bother reading the actual procedure and signed this bill into law saying that if a doctor does not attempt to reimplant the fetus, then he can be charged with abortion murder. Okay, that's like I said, I'll put the link in the description. But I mean, I was literally had this looked up while I was talking about it, and yeah, it's a screwed up situation, and it can't be done. So I mean, the guy was just completely not doing his job, and he is kind of scummy for just signing that in there without even thinking about it.
A lot of the things that secular haters that people don't like about it are usually they'll point to Stalin and Hitler, and I'll even go ahead and add the uncommon one of Mao Zedong. These weren't exactly secular. I mean, yeah, they were, but they were more fascist dictators. Okay, obviously that's not what most secular people, that's not what most secular people actually enjoy, or not enjoy, but they don't really see that as an actual secular thing, because the one guy is basically saying, I'm in charge, you have no say. Which goes back to the freedom for all, including.
What I was trying to get across here was I understand that most atheists, we do not subscribe to totalitarianism. For some reason, I just couldn't get it out of my mouth. And if you actually hear me talk long enough, you're going to notice I do have a slight speech impediment. Every now and then, I just start chewing on my words.
At this point in time, the freedom to be offended, but that also gives you the freedom to offend. And you really can't take away one freedom versus the other without infringing on somebody. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of things that, especially me, big old hairy guy. Most people think I'm white. I'm not. I've been called everything in the book. I've experienced racism from every color of the spectrum. It doesn't really bother me. I'm living in Oklahoma. I hear all kinds of racist people. I work with I worked with a few of them. Sad to say, but that's one thing that in the last hangout that I actually joined G-Man in, I made the comment that I am definitely not a snowflake, and that's just because I'm kind of apathetic about it. I don't really care too much about certain situations like that. But when looking at morality in general, there is a difference between.
What I was trying to get at here was, yeah, I'm not completely white. Obviously, I look white. I can pass for it. The thing is I am a quarter Puerto Rican. I am either an eighth or a 16th Native American. I can't recall which tribe because that's on my biological father's side. But then I am like a major mixture of mutt. I mean, there's like Irish, German, Scottish, all kinds of Scandinavian in there. And I have met people that as soon as I tell them that I've got Puerto Rican in me, it's suddenly, oh, I'm a dirty Mexican. I've been called a spick. I have been called, the N word by Mexicans, which is kind of awkward. Uh, but generally, I do have a lot more of a tan, but I've been working night shift for a few years and I don't see a whole lot of the sign. So that's the excuse that I have to go with right now.
From what I understand of G-Man's position of subjective morality, whereas having learned a little bit about it the last few days, I've actually turned around and figured out that it's more of a moral relativism that I actually follow. And the reason why is because there's more of a universally preferred behavior, which does not equate to objective or absolute morality, because absolute morality or objective morality would be mind independent. So whether humans are here or not, it's basically saying that, killing, rape, stuff like that would still be wrong. But in our society, those things are only wrong because we think they're wrong, which gives it the universal aspect, but it doesn't give it the objective aspect.
Yeah, here's my first major critique of myself here. What I was trying to get at here is, yes, you can objectively measure a moral standard, but the standard itself is still going to be subjective because it requires the mind. I do understand, having studied a little bit more since this debate, that you can objectively measure a subjective thing and come to an objective conclusion, but there is still that starting aspect of subjectivity to it. The reason why I use universally preferred behavior or universally accepted behavior is because it's universally. Sorry, I've apparently got some Italian in me too because I like to use my hands. The issue is that universally accepted behavior is the way that we all agree on it. I mean, there are very few people that think that rape is okay. Most of the people that are in prison for rape generally don't consider what they did to be raped. And I can understand that. The problem is there are some people that don't have an issue with the idea of forcing themselves on another person. So there are people that are, by our definition, okay with rape. So that'll come up here in just a second. But that was basically the entire thing that I was trying to get out. For some reason, I do tend to have a few brain farts every now and then.
Gotcha.
So
Thank you very much. G-Man, any thoughts?
Yeah. Quick opening statement. Obviously, I believe in the Judeo-Christian values of that we're taught in the scriptures. I believe that America would be in a better place if men and women in this country were to love each other and treat each other the way they wanted to be treated, as Jesus taught us to love our neighbor the way we love ourselves. And even
I did notice in the chat over here, it started sparking up a conversation about my ethnicity.
to go so far to show a certain amount of respect, even to our enemies as well. I believe that if that happened, the crime rate would be much lower than it is today. We would have less racism would practically be extinct because no one would be judging anyone based on the color of their skin. There's a passage in the Bible in 1 Samuel where it talks about how God doesn't look at the physical appearance, but man does. God looks at the heart. And if we followed that example, many of us wouldn't even be entertaining the idea of racism again. I think a lot of times when we get into these conversations and when we're talking about secular morality versus Christian values, especially here in America, slavery comes up and other topics like that come up, like rape and all that stuff. But I think a lot of people confuse Judaism with Christianity, and I'll get into that a little bit later when me and Johnny begin our conversation. I believe that if atheism...
I'm going to point out something in the chat over here. Somebody over here called chaos theory says secularism equals bestiality may one day become legal and moral. I have no idea where you managed to come up with the mental gymnastics to come to that conclusion, but yeah, I don't see how, because secularism is the ideology of being secular. I don't see what that means. Secular humanism, on the other hand, most humans will agree that members of other species can't consent to having sex. So we don't agree with bestiality. And then more of my ancestry questions. And then, of course, somebody over here, secularism equals pedophilia legal within decades. Again, there is the age of consent, and a lot of people do not agree that pedophilia is legal because it is either a form of Stockholm syndrome, it is a form of indoctrination or brainwashing to the minor child, or it's a 75-year-old man, with an 18-year-old, which at least that is technically legal, but it's not exactly appropriate. There's still going to be a social taboo. That's one of the reasons why we call it robbing the cradle.
Ran America, or if this country was run by atheistic values, we'll have a society very similar to that of Joseph Stalin's communist Russia. Johnny might disagree with me because I know there's a lot more involved in it, like Marxism and communism and things like
See, I knew he was going to go to Stalinist Russia.
that and whatnot. But a lot of the values that atheists have here in the United States are similar to the values that we see that existed during the time of Joseph Stalin. Also, this issue of subjective morality, where people where morality is relative. You got a lot of people out there that believe that is all based on their own personal opinion. See, you got person A over there that believes that rape is okay, and you got person B over there that don't believe that rape is okay. How do you determine in an atheist society who's right and who's wrong? You know what I mean? These are the kind of things that I want to talk to him about. And the objective, when we have an absolute way of determining whether or not something is right or wrong, and we do it God's way, we can look at things like rape, we can look at things like slavery, and we can look at things like this, and we can say that these things are absolutely wrong. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to necessarily argue with Johnny today, necessarily from the common argument where we argue that America is a Christian nation, because I'm one of the people out there that don't necessarily believe that. I think we might have started off that way, but
America didn't start off as a Christian nation. Most of the founding fathers were deists, if at all. Thomas Jefferson, in fact, swore himself in on a book of laws, not a Bible. He was one of the few presidents that did that.
It's hard to find a decade where I can actually say that that's a time when this country was a strong Christian nation or whatever. But I will say that if we go by the commandments of Jesus Christ and we go by the commandments that God gave in the scriptures on how to interact with one another.
G-Man, is this some sort of tasteless joke? There he is. He's
Yeah, okay.
back.
All right, great. I apologize about that bad video here. But anyway, long story short, if we go by what God tells us in the Bible about how to treat each other, I believe it would go a long way to getting rid of crime in the United States, to help us prosper, to help us thrive, and to help us to be a stronger and a better people. I do not believe atheism will do that. I believe atheism will.
Apparently, I missed something because chaos theories over here in the chat again. Let's see here, he's looking at sexy calzones. So okay, GHB can minors consent, and there. Now, chaos theory. A dog humping your leg can be seen as consent, and consent itself isn't needed to do anything moral. Yeah, I've got to agree with Sexy Calzone on that one. Just, I don't understand your argument for that. A dog humping your leg is not consent. That is a dog humping your leg. Okay, that does not mean that the dog wants you to have sex with it. It's just, there's dominance issues there. There's, there are dogs that do that as a sign of territory and stuff like that. So I have issues with that, seriously. There's some major strawman argument going on, and that's one of those that's just kind of childish and immature.
Will make us fight with each other, war with each other, and not get along with each other. And I have example after example after example to show with that. But I'm going to wait until me and Johnny get into a direct conversation about this. So I'll stop there.
You bet. Open conversation, folks. Very excited to listen to this.
Okay. You want to start asking questions, or do we just want to start talking?
Sure, Johnny. Yeah. So Johnny, do you think our society would really be better off if morality was just subjective and not objective?
That's not really the right question in this case. It's the simple fact that morality is subjective is more the answer there. Or actually, not subjective, relative.
Okay, so let's use the word relative then. Do you believe that our society would be better if morality was relative instead of being objective?
It's a clear case that it is relative. It's
okay,
related
so
to the time that we live in and everything like that.
All right, so I disagree with that. But
okay.
If you want to go with that, let's go with that. Show me how today how our society would be better if everyone's morality was simply relative. Give me an example of how we interact with each other on how our morality would be better if everything was just relative.
Okay, I can't really give you a definition on that one.
And Jesus is Lord. I've been arguing with him a lot because I've been in a couple of G-Man's hangouts. The founders did not think morality was subjective. Just read your Declaration of Independence. No, the thing is they did not think it was subjective, but at the same time, if you think about it, they were arguing against a morality that they disagreed with. Yeah, and they were trying to establish through the Declaration of Independence, through the Bill of Rights, and everything like that, their own morality, which was relative to our nation. So again, it's relative. That's the reason why I use that word.
When considering you're trying to compare something that is with something that isn't, the fact that morality is relative is what I'm arguing here. It's it is relative in the United States that we understand that rape is wrong. We understand that murder is wrong and stuff like that. However, it is also relative over in the Middle East that atheists are terrorists and need to be decapitated. So I mean, that's the relative part. We do have situations.
For the sake of this conversation,
yeah.
For the sake of this conversation, let's talk about the United States, as neither one of us live in the Middle East, right? So let's talk about the United States. You said that morality is relative here, right? And that
yes.
and that because everything is relative, that automatically means that rape is wrong. Do you believe that relative morality is based on opinion, or do you believe that it's based on facts?
I believe it is based on instinct.
It's based on what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I believe it is based on instinct.
On what? I didn't get that.
Instinct. It's instinctual in us.
Instinct. Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, so, I find myself an altruistic person.
Apparently, GHP is GPH and Chaos Theory are going to town with Sexy Calzone in the chat. I didn't even realize when we were talking earlier. Charlie Reed, yeah, G-Man's not listening. Let's see. I can only imagine America without Christianity. Beautiful thought, slavery and genocide would have never happened. No, they probably would have happened. It's just we would have been able to get rid of them a lot sooner. So Sexy Calzone, those can change, right? They're subjective. Children are verbal and can get consent technically. Gross, but that is the argument. This is underway. The issue I see here with GPH is he seems to be trying to argue some weird trying to under the Born That Way banner, and then I guess technically they can move from a societal and legal standpoint. So unless he deleted, or unless he had a comment deleted, then over here, oh no, he's a mod too. Okay, sex calzone, those can change, right? They are subjective. Okay. See, the thing is people really like to conflate that word subjective right there, and it seems that that's one of the reasons why I use universally preferred behavior or relativism instead of subjective. People don't quite understand that just because everybody agrees that something is wrong does not mean that it is not still just an opinion. And that's one issue that I have with these arguments right here, because they seem to be a cross between a straw man and an argument from ignorance.
If everybody, okay, do you believe that everybody in the United States believe that rape is relative? I mean, everybody.
Do I believe that everybody in the United States thinks that rape is relative?
Yeah.
No, I believe everybody has their own relative opinion on rape, which is generally wrong. I mean, we do have sick people in this country, so yeah, there are some people that think that it's not wrong. They would be wrong to the rest of us.
Okay. Can you name somebody that?
Can I name somebody what?
Okay, there we go. Can you name somebody in the United States who believes that rape is okay and there's nothing wrong with it? Just one person.
I don't generally keep tabs on our local jailbirds newspaper here, but I'm pretty sure that there's probably at least a couple of people in there that were just accused of or that just went to jail for rape. Obviously, they thought it was okay.
Okay, cool. I think you misunderstood my question. I said to give me a person that thought it was okay to do it, that believes that it's right to do it.
No, that's two different questions. You have the question of, is it okay or is it right?
I want to know if it's right. You said that everyone in this country. I'm sorry, no, you didn't. You said that morality is relative,
Yes.
right? You said morality was
See, I can appreciate him right here for actually catching himself and trying not to put words in my mouth.
relative, all right? And you said that's based on instinct, okay?
Mhm.
And then my question for you was, is there anybody in this country that believes that rape is okay? You said that the people in jail probably think it's okay. I disagree with you. I don't believe that the people in jail believe.
I said specifically the rapists that are in jail possibly thought it was okay.
See, possibly is not a good answer. You see, it's either they think it's okay or believe it's okay, or they don't. Like, which one is it? Because they're in jail, they did the crime. Did they believe it was okay? Yes or no?
I believe they were probably not very good people that didn't bother thinking of the outcome of their actions.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you, did you think that do you believe they think that rape was okay? That was my question for you.
The issue I have with what he's trying to do here is he's trying to get me to get into the mind of somebody who I don't know and essentially tell him what they're thinking. Okay. It's kind of hard to do. And it's also one of the main reasons why I have issues when people tell me what I'm thinking. Because unless you're up here with me, it's really hard for you to be able to figure it out. And if you're up here with me, then you're going to realize that, other people are more twisted than you think they are.
Well, see, the problem is we have a lot of ignorant people in this country, and he just quit again. There we go. You back?
Okay. So was it okay? Yes or no?
That's not a yes or no question.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you're saying that yes, they thought it was okay, right?
And of course, GPH over here in the chat again. Let's see, well, apparently it started a little bit earlier than this. Yeah, morality is relative until the atheist is raped. So according to Johnny, there's nothing absolutely wrong with rape. It's just our opinion that it's wrong. Okay, once again, the fact that we all agree that it's wrong still makes it an opinion. So I don't see a fault with that aside from the way you're trying to make it look. Natalie, you want to know what this dude thinks about conscience? I'm assuming you're talking to me or asking me. I believe that conscience is an evolved trait that started with essentially the start of the primate line, because even a rhesus monkey is aware of itself. It's also aware that it's going to die, and they do act accordingly because of that. Now, GPH, he believes in objective morality, calls people sick if they do think rape is okay. Okay, I don't see how that's objective morality, as I've already explained, that once again, you're trying to get me to get into the mind of somebody who I don't know. In my opinion, it is sick. In my subjective opinion, it is objectively bad. Okay, once again, you can apply an objective metric to measure something, but it's still a subjective thing.
No, that's not a yes or no question.
Oh, that's not a yes or no question. Well, let me answer it from a Christian perspective. I believe that they know it's wrong, and there's nothing relative about it. I believe when they did it, they knew it was wrong, and they tried to hide what they did. Nobody in the United States of America believes that rape is okay. Nobody. Zero. Nobody. And that is why when they do it, they try to hide from the police. They try to act like they didn't do anything.
G-Man, I love you, man, but the service is like, the connection on, I think on your side is kind of cutting up.
Native Atheist actually caught that. Yeah, he's asking me to read somebody's mind. And that's one thing that I have issues with when people try to do that with me. Apparently I missed something from Charlie, because apparently I'm not any better either. What was that about? I'm answering. Sorry, I know this is going to make this thing, a lot longer than the hour and 45 minutes that it was. Okay, I'll have to figure that one out later.
I'm going to try to cut my camera off. I'm going to try to cut my camera off and try to do something different. Okay.
You got it.
All right. So I want to get to the point of me asking him this, those questions I was asking him. Rape is objectively wrong if you can't find one person that thinks is okay. It's not relative.
It's universally wrong.
It is absolutely wrong. It's not universally. It would only be.
This is what I was trying to get at earlier. Okay, just because you can't find somebody that thinks it's not wrong, they've still got to use their mind, which means that they're trying to put a subjective opinion on, they're trying to use this subjective opinion to come up with an objective metric. Okay, there's still that subjective base in there.
Be universally wrong if you can find me at least one person who believed that it was okay. When I say that
has nothing to do with it.
Hold on a minute. When I say that is absolutely wrong, I'm saying that you can't that under every last circumstance that you could possibly think of, it is wrong. Every last circumstance is wrong. So morality is not relative. Morality is objective. We know that there are things that are absolutely wrong. Tell me this: do you believe?
Oh yeah, that's right. Jesus is Lord's the one that's got the wrench tonight. So yeah, he was actually pulling comments off of this thing.
That there's a situation, and I know a lot of atheists hear this, and they don't like this, but do you believe that there's a situation when it is ever okay to rape a baby? Of course you don't. I don't. Nobody in America believes that it's okay to do that, because if they did it, they know they're going to get thrown in jail, and they know that is wrong. Right? So under the Christian worldview, if you believe that something that's absolutely wrong, it's going to prevent you from going out there and actually, committing these crimes. But if you believe that everything is relative and is according to a person's opinion, then you're actually supporting crime at that particular point.
No, I'm not.
Because you're saying that these things that these things are only wrong or right according to a person's point of view.
This is what I mean by putting words in your mouth. Apparently, he believes he knows what I'm thinking, and I haven't stated any of this.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so then explain it from your worldview then.
Okay, as I said, there are universally preferred behaviors. Okay, obviously, the vast majority of us thinks that rape is wrong. Okay, you didn't have to add the baby in there. That's actually kind of disturbing. Okay, the thing is
it really was.
Not everyone, or the simple fact that it is required to have human mind in there to think that rape is wrong. So it can't be objective. Okay, the fact that animals can breed with unwilling animals of the opposite gender means that it is not absolute, because there are, if you've ever seen a duck attack another duck in the middle of the lake.
This is that part of me chewing on my tongue.
Essentially that. The thing is what we're talking about here is literally moral relativism. There's nothing there that says that even if everybody agrees with it, means it has to be objective. It is, even if everybody agrees with it, that just means that they agree with it. It's universal. It's not objective. Did we lose him again?
And there I disagree with you there, but just to move on with the conversation to keep this thing going. Again, from the Christian worldview, I believe that if we treated people the way you wanted to be treated, and if we saw somebody, if you saw somebody outside that had a need, and we were to meet these needs, our society would go along a lot better. Meaning there would be nobody sleeping outside if people actually shared what they actually had. You know what I mean? A lot of people.
I'm gonna point something out over here. So this guy Anton, normal rape is fine, but baby is disturbing. Atheism logic, make rape great again, not children. No. Apparently, he completely missed the point that I agree that I find rape disturbing. I'm going to elaborate just a little bit there. I have been, I was molested as a child by a older male. I was also raped as an adult by a woman who decided that because I woke up with something that she wanted, or because I was still asleep, and she decided that I was apparently that I appeared ready, that I was willing. I woke up to that, and I consider that rape because I did not consent, and I had no intentions of ever consenting. So yeah, I do find rape very disturbing, and I still find it to be a subjective or a relative thing, though. Okay, it is still relative, even though I agree with the vast majority of people that when when you don't get consent, it's rape.
And the government talk about helping a lot of these poor people, but a lot of people in the government don't want to necessarily do what is necessary to get them off of the street. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that there are programs that exist. I understand that that a lot of these people don't want to be helped, but a lot of that falls on our society because you don't have enough people out there actually taking what they have to try to help the people out in the street. Okay. Now, from a secular perspective, from an atheist perspective, how do you look at this? Do you believe that atheists have a better solution to help people get off the street and to get them food and get them clothing, other than actually loving them? Is there a better solution to that? Because I don't believe that there's one.
Now, when you say from an atheist perspective, are you talking about just using the aspect of atheism? Can I give you an answer to that?
The only reason I'm asking you that is because of the topic of the conversation. We're talking about atheism or Christianity for what's best for America, what's going to move us forward.
And again, I'm going to say the topic of the conversation was not the one I agreed to. So we're going to have that's one thing that I have a slight issue with there.
Is it love, or is it going to be whatever atheists believe?
Well,
I'm trying to get it from your perspective.
Okay, see, the problem is atheism doesn't have a stance on morals. Okay, atheism is literally the answer to one question, which is God. However, that does mean that we can adopt any other relativistic idea that we find that works. So I am also a secular humanist, which I believe that
Why does it have to be relative? Why does it have to be relative and not objective?
Because it's kind of impossible to have absolutely objective morals. Like I said,
Are you serious?
Objectivity is mind independent. That means that without the existence of humans, then those actions would be wrong. The problem is without the existence of humans, those actions wouldn't be.
See, here's the thing. Humans do exist, and rape does happen. Murder does happen. And I can't find a human being on planet Earth that thinks it's okay. It's not relative. It's objective. So it doesn't have to be relative.
It's universal.
It has to be objective because we throw people in jail.
Again, complaining universal with objective. And apparently so is, let's get biblical over here, who's, morality is subjective until somebody steals my wallet. Because, that's mature. And by the way, I will never delete a comment on my comment sections. If you have a comment, add it. I don't care. If I decide to ignore it, then it's probably one that just tells me how immature you're being. But I will usually answer any comment that I see on my pages.
Because they break the law and they do things that are wrong. They can go to the judge all they want and say, "Oh, according to my opinion, I don't think I did anything wrong." They can't do that because if they do, they're going to get thrown in jail.
Yeah, that's the reason why it's universal.
The law says.
And one thing, if G-Man, if you actually watch this that's one thing that I've been wanting to ask you about that. If you're self-conscious about the, people making fun of you for the way you say jail, why don't you just say prison? I mean, just a little thought.
So I'll ask you this question again. How come it can't be objective? And why does it have to be relative? And if it is relative, and you said that atheism doesn't have any moral codes, and if atheism doesn't have no moral codes, I don't know what exactly we're going to base our country on moving forward. I'm basing it on love and respect and helping other people. What are you basing it on if you don't have a moral code or anything like that?
Secular humanism and altruism.
He's conflating the fact that I don't use atheism for my morals on me not having a moral code. So.
Okay, so talk about your secular humanism. Let's hear this.
Okay, the argument for secular humanism is that I believe that humanity is capable of being moral. However, that does not force people to think that all humans are either good or evil. Okay, there is the capability. That's it. Okay, which is the reason why I also add altruism. Okay, when you take yourself out of an equation and put yourself towards the betterment of everyone around you, generally you end up better off.
It sounds like you agree with me that loving other people is the best way to go about helping other people.
Actually, yes, I agree. I completely agree with you on that.
It sounds like you actually agree with me that Christianity actually does have the answer regarding this. And
that's where we differ.
Yeah, so he was trying to sneak that in there.
I agree with you on the outcome. I disagree with the method.
Okay, so what's wrong with the method?
I know somebody in the comment, why doesn't he define altruism? Altruism is literally taking yourself out of the equation and taking away, and it's removing yourself from the equation and looking for the best of the situation. That's what I just said. So I did define altruism.
Personally, don't see why the belief in a book is any more important than the belief in humanity.
Okay, I'm going to give you some grace there because I don't think you know what you just said. Okay, so it's not a book; it's a deity that we believe in.
Which comes from a book.
His words are in the book, kind of like Richard Dawkins believed certain things, or Charles Darwin believed in certain things, and he wrote it down in the book. And evolutionists follow what was taught in that book.
No, we don't. Charles Darwin would not recognize evolution today. He had no idea what DNA was, and modern day evolution is so wrapped around DNA genetically that Charles Darwin would look at that and be as educated on the topic as your average middle-aged kid, or sorry, middle school kid.
So that's kind of unfair what you just said. Well, I don't agree with evolution. So, and this is not a debate about evolution. This is about whose system is better to help America move forward. And
I agree.
We already talked about love. You already agree with me on love. Tell me this: if you was outside and you was cold, and I had two coats, I had a coat on and I had a coat in my bag, and I took my coat off and I put it on and I gave it to you so that you could be warm. Do you have a problem with that method? With me actually taking my brand new coat, giving it to you, and helping you stay warm? Do you have a problem with that method?
G-Man, given that situation right there, even if it were reversed, I would give you the shirt off my back if you were cold. Okay, I agree with you that altruism is a good thing.
All right, so we both agree that when Jesus said to love our neighbor the way we love ourselves, that's a good way to go. Now, what about this? Because
the problem is it conflates with just the standard golden rule of treat people how you want to be treated, which is that. I mean, that is like one of the oldest, scriptures that you can come across. Actually, I think they're doing something about that in the Code of Hammurabi, but I could definitely be wrong on that one because I'm not 100% sure.
Let's get a little more controversial because I really don't want to stay on one point too long. And,
Okay.
and we need to eventually get into this. What about the definition of marriage between a man and a woman? If a man and a woman.
And somebody over here, I just lost the debate, but I don't realize it. I have no reason to disagree with G-Man. Yeah, there's plenty of things on this thing that I disagree with him about.
Gets married and they have children, we thrive. We grow as a people. If they don't have any children, our numbers are reduced. What is your definition of marriage? And do you think Christianity is stopping us from thriving, or do you believe that atheism has a better answer?
I do believe that atheism has a better answer on that one because the simple fact that I believe that marriage is the lawful union of two people who are in love. It has nothing to do with what their beliefs are. It is just whatever. It's essentially a civic union. It was established as far back as ancient Sumeria, if you've ever read the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is over 1,000 years older than your book.
Well, we're not talking about my book. Well, we're just talking about the definition of marriage right now.
I realize that.
And how marriage actually helps us to thrive. So tell me this: if it's just two people that fall in love, explain to me how a marriage between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, is going to help us thrive as a people, for our population to get bigger, and for us to build strong homes and strong families. From an atheist perspective, I'm listening to you. I'm not debating you necessarily on this topic. So
Okay.
please be careful what you say. But go ahead.
Okay, so how is a man and a man or a woman and a woman getting married going to help society? Well, this is where the atheist again has an advantage because we're not predisposed to judgment. But at this point in time, as I said, there isn't just morally good or morally bad. Okay, you have moral, which is good. You have immoral, which is bad, and then you have amoral, which is neither. Okay, the simple act of a marriage is technically an amoral position.
Flash Gordon over here in the comments. So Gilgamesh confirms the Bible's accuracy. Then Dink next. Sorry, but apparently you've never read the Epic of Gilgamesh, because there is countless things in there that are completely contradictory to the Bible. Samson is fashioned off of Gilgamesh. The whole wrestling a lion and everything like that. But last time I checked, Samson was blessed by the gods, whereas Gilgamesh was 2/3 God. So there's conflation right there. So I disagree with that.
It has really no impact on society as a whole if two people who love each other decide that they want to live together. Okay, the actual act of marriage itself is just a ceremony.
Okay, so I would agree with you that it's possible if a man and a man got married that they would love each other. I would also agree with you that it's possible that if a woman and a woman got married that they would love each other. My concern is whether or not, let's say a man and a man raised a little girl, or a man and a man raised a little boy. Is the boy necessarily going to get the affection that he needs, that he would normally get from his mother? And typically, when babies are young, they breastfeed, and things like that and whatnot. But, and I'm not saying that that's mandatory, but a woman treats her son a lot different than the way the man would. And the same thing with a daughter. A man is going to treat the daughter a little bit different than the way the mother is going to treat her. And she's going to be raised a certain way based on, the different personalities. Do you believe that you're going to have a balanced person if a little girl is raised by the same sex, by two people? And do you believe that person will be able to thrive in society and be psychologically okay doing it according to your system?
Yes, there are actually psychological studies out there that, all you're basically asking is, do I believe a child raised in a home with two parents is going to be better than if they were raised with one parent? Essentially, it doesn't really matter the gender of the parents. If there's two of them there, the child becomes more capable of being fully functional. There are dysfunctional people out there specifically because they were raised by single parents.
And those numbers are actually higher in minority people. Uh, one thing that I was going to say here, though, that I didn't quite get out. G-Man is trying to figure out how, gay and lesbian couples raising children would have an effect on the child. The thing is those gay couples, whether it's through artificial insemination or a surrogate mother, um, is also through adoption, which gets the children back out of the government system, which is better for our government, and into a loving family, which means that they're not sitting around in a home or foster care or anything like that. So that's another way that not judging people because they just happen to be two men or two women, and allowing them to fulfill that role of wanting to become a parent is more in the hands of the atheist ideal as opposed to Christianity.
Okay, do you believe that a girl would be more masculine if she was raised by two men, as opposed to being more balanced if she was raised by a woman and a man?
I don't generally follow on that one. What do you mean?
This was intentional.
Like, do I believe
Okay,
a woman's
so-
gonna grow a beard if she's raised by two dads?
No. I mean, like, is she going to be like more of a tomboy if she's raised by two men? You know what I'm talking about.
Well,
I like that one. That was a pretty cool joke.
That's honestly, that really has no impact on who they are as a person, though. I'm actually fairly attracted to tomboys.
I totally disagree on that, but at least from the Christian worldview, I believe
Ironically, I still have
that a man and a woman play a certain role in the development of a growing child. The mother is going to give the child a certain amount of affection and a certain amount of and things that a man simply can't do, because traditionally speaking, the man is the one that's usually working. The woman is going to spend a lot more time with the child. You know what I mean? I mean, these days we got babysitters, but traditionally that's usually the case. You know what I mean? A lot of times when a child does something wrong, they're going to go to the mom, because the man is usually the disciplinarian. You know what I mean? I don't know if you have any children. I'm curious. When your child does something wrong, does your child run to you, or does he run to the mom?
My kids were literally sitting above my head.
How does your mom handle how does the mom handle the child versus how do you handle the child? And like in your home, if you have any children.
I've got two. They're actually upstairs listening right now.
Okay, so answer the question.
Well, I'm technically a single dad. I actually live with my roommates. They deal with the adjustment as best they can. I'm unfortunately divorced, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter to me.
I kind of faded out when he was talking right here. To answer the question, do I believe that my kids are well adjusted? Yes, I do, but I have the benefit of, like I said, living with my roommate, even though I am a single parent. They have one child, they are married, and the three of us basically take care of the three kids, which basically puts each kid having one-on-one when it's needed, which actually kind of gives them a slight advantage because there's three parents, three kids. So we actually have a fairly decent setup here.
Well, I didn't mean to bring up that. If you don't feel comfortable talking about that, that's fine. If you want to use another family in America, you can if you want.
No, that's fine. My kids are generally well behaved. They they turn around and they get into their thing, but it's usual for teenage boys.
I'll tell you what I do agree. What I do agree regarding secular society, and
Okay.
and I had a room full of atheists that convinced me of this, and they're right. We live in the United States of America, and whoever is in office is going to necessarily represent all of us. Christians, Muslims, Hindus, whatever. You know what I mean? And I had an atheist come in my room one time, and they said that that if a Christian president was representing everyone, would the other religions have the freedom that they wanted to practice their religion? You know what I mean? Like, or if a Muslim was running it, would I want him restricting me of my own religious beliefs? The only thing I see positive about a secular government, if they did it right, would be that the person who was neutral would treat us all the same way. That's the only thing I would agree on. But as far as the moral aspect of it, Christianity is far superior than any secular society I've ever seen on a moral level. Now, I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm technically a moral egalitarian. I believe treating everybody the same way, regardless of what they believe in or what they look like. So, I mean, I am fully in support of just pretty much every civil rights amendment that we've ever had. I do agree with you that an actual secular official would be more willing to not infringe on the beliefs to the extent that the law could provide. The only problem is we don't have any of those.
But there would have to be limitations on that too, I think, though. But there have to be limitations on that, though, too, because some of these people, and we see this throughout history, that if you get the wrong person in office, you know what I mean, they want to destroy your churches, they want to start killing people in the millions, you know what I mean, Joseph Stalin, you know.
And of course, it goes back to Joseph Stalin. The thing is what he didn't quite catch there is an actual secular official. Okay, that means that somebody who is going to look at the entire diverse following that they have, or their entire diverse constituency, and figure out what is the best for the entirety of it, not just what's the best for the Christians because I'm Christian, or how can I do this without offending the Muslims too bad. It's basically they'll be able to look at it and go, okay, well, I have this many Christians, this many Muslims, this many Jewish people, this many non-religious people. How can I figure out how to make sure that every one of them is right, or not right, but every one of them is helped by my policies, and then they'll make their policies accordingly. But like I kind of casually tossed in there, no, I don't think that we have any politicians, or if we do, they're very few and far between, that actually meet those requirements.
On some other people.
Like I said, I completely agree with you. Joseph Stalin was a piece of shit.
Yeah. But if you get the right person who's able to go in there and be neutral, you know what I mean, then I think the other religions can benefit, because then we're allowed to practice our religious beliefs. Now, I got a quick question for you. How would you feel about Christians being outside and evangelizing? Or do you believe that Christianity should only be practiced in the home?
No, I believe organizations should be set up. I don't believe, walking around the street with a bullhorn shouting at people is a good idea. I have no issues whatsoever about, walking around handing out flyers and inviting people to your church. That's fine to me. I've actually had people hand me flyers to go to a church and then generally start screaming at me when I tell them I'm an atheist.
What if they had a permit? What if somebody had a permit and they had a bullhorn and they were preaching? Because the law permits you to do it if you have a permit. How do you feel about that?
That's a touchy subject right there, because then you're basically paying a prepaid fine to do something that's not really all that great.
But that limits. See, and this is what I'm talking about when I say about the right.
Yeah, see, it kind of helps limit your that perceived right of being offended. Because if we were to allow the Christian to have the bullhorn screaming, then we're obviously going to have to allow the Black Hebrew Israelites, we're going to have to allow the Jews, we're going to have to allow the Muslims, and then we're just going to have a group of people sitting there screaming with bullhorns, and nobody's ever going to get peace. And that's the reason why I have issues with being able to go out and evangelize like that. And yeah, I do believe that permits are basically just prepaid fines. It's like, well, I know I'm going to be doing something that's going to be irritating people, so I'm going to go ahead and pay that fine in advance. So yes, I do believe those. I do believe permits for stuff specifically in this situation is ridiculous.
Person being in office, because here's the thing. Now we got an issue of how do you not infringe on my religious rights at this particular point? You know what I mean? I have a religious belief that people are sinners, and that the only way they're going to be.
The only problem is I didn't realize you had to believe that that being obnoxious to people is the appropriate way to get them to repent, because that's kind of a weird belief.
Saved if I preach to them. And sometimes God will have us go outside using a bullhorn and preaching the gospel outside. That is my religious, those are my religious beliefs. When you tell me I can't do that, you're restricting me and you're not being fair, because there are other religions that can actually do the same thing. Just because you don't like people going outside doing it doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't be able to do it. And that's why I mentioned what I mentioned earlier. You have to have the right person in office. You know what I mean? But morally speaking, right? Do you have an issue with Christians practicing their beliefs in schools? Do you have an issue with them practicing their beliefs in libraries? Do you have a problem with Christians practicing their beliefs while they're in public office? What do you believe about that?
In what way? I mean, are we talking about like a teacher-sponsored Bible study class, or are we talking about having an official chaplain for the White House?
I'm talking about a politician basing his politics on what he believes religiously.
That I have an issue with.
How do you separate the two? Let's say
So the two examples I gave were more akin to what he was actually trying to ask me in the first place, at least in my opinion. Okay, I do have issues with a teacher-sponsored Bible study, only in the situation where the teacher is attempting to require it. Okay, the teacher wants to create an after-school group and invite kids into a Bible study. I have no issues with it because it's an extracurricular activity that is not in any way sponsored by the school. I mean, it could be hosted by the school, but that's kind of splitting hairs for me. Okay. Now, the idea of having a chaplain for the White House, which we do, which is irritating to me, but I don't really have too much to say about it. That, on the other hand, is really getting fined there, because now you are actually using government money to pay somebody to pray. And that's where the whole separation of church and state comes into play. And just my opinion, that I believe that it shouldn't be there.
ran for public office right now. No, as a matter of fact, I'll use a real life example. Arnold Raw ran for public office. I believe he wanted a seat in the Senate or in Congress or whatever. And
I believe it was the Senate.
He is an atheist. And he's an outspoken atheist. Mm-hmm. But he would have took his beliefs right to the White House. I mean, not to the White House, right to Congress with him. You know what I mean? Would you want him to separate his atheistic beliefs from his politics? Why should religious people separate their religious beliefs from their politics, and atheists shouldn't?
For some reason, that kind of caught me off guard. The thing is if RN actually had gotten into the Senate, I don't understand how in that situation, because Arn Ra is a secular person. He is an atheist. He may be an anti-theist in his personal views, but he has said multiple times that, from a procedural policy standpoint, even on his platform, that he was basically looking for. This is me chewing on my tongue again. Even on his platform, he was actually looking for equal rights. He wasn't looking to spread atheism as part of his policy. What he was doing was trying to re-equalize the freedoms. Okay, and I'm not one of those people that has a persecution complex. I do believe that there are atheists that do get persecuted, but unfortunately, it's been that way for quite a while, because Christians, there is a persecution complex there for quite a few Christians that somehow seem to think that even though they're the majority, they're also the more hated. And I don't quite understand how you can have it both ways. I mean, that's a little odd to me. But no, Arn Ra would not be, closing churches or burning Bibles or anything like that as part of his Senate run. That's just trying to conflate two separate things there.
Because atheists don't have religious beliefs. I mean, I'm not understanding what you mean there. It's if you're running for a secular office, you need to at least have a secular mindset when you're on the job. Okay, if you cannot divide that I'm a Christian, these are what I view on the facts, versus I am a politician. These are my constituents. I have to look out for every single one of them. Then, do you see where the where the imbalance is there?
Believe it or not, I can see what you're talking about, but that goes back to what I said earlier about getting the right person in public office again and leading us in the right direction.
Honestly, I don't think we have a single right person in public office.
Well, here's the thing. Atheists have certain beliefs about religion. Like, for example, I use Aaron Ra as an example. Aaron Ra is an epistevist. He believes that faith is dishonest. If Aaron Ra had the power, Aaron Ra could outlaw people from using their faith. And
this is what I meant right
just
here.
got out again.
That's the reason why we have a separation of church.
G-Man.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Yeah, Aaron Ra could use his political power to try to outlaw faith. Faith in a God because he believes it's dishonest. He can use his political power to try to outlaw Christians from utilizing their faith to make crucial decisions because he believes that is dishonest. These are his personal ingrained beliefs, and he can bring that to his politics. You know what I mean? And that could affect us moving forward. How is it that he can be fair with everybody, being a secularist, and separate his beliefs? That's the thing.
A lot of people
You can't do it. It is impossible for anybody to pass any type of legislation without separating. By separating their beliefs. You can't do it. A person's always going to be moved by what they actually believe, right? So, answer this, right? If a secularist got into public office and it came down to decide whether or not abortion should be legal or illegal, is that going to be based on their beliefs, or is that going to be based on the facts or something else?
Well, if a true secularist got into office, I believe he would actually do his job and look at every situation. The entire thing about abortion, honestly, I am pro-choice. I'm going to tell you that right now, so don't cut my head off on that. Okay. The thing is the reason why is because I don't believe you can put a blanket ban on everything like that. Okay. Here in the state of Oklahoma specifically, as I said earlier, an ectopic pregnancy is considered an abortion. If we put a blanket ban on that, then I know actually multiple women that would be dead now because they couldn't have gotten saved, or they couldn't have been able to abort that fetus. Okay, so I do believe that a secular person would actually do their job and classify what they are.
Okay.
I do not believe that abortion is a good idea as a form of birth control. I think that's bullshit.
Now, having just said that, I personally would not use abortion as a form of birth control. However, I'm not willing to take that right away from somebody else. Okay? That may put me as more immoral to some people or more moral to others. Take it with what you will. I wasn't able to get that out there.
Okay, all right. So without arguing or anything like that, keeping this as a conversation, at least from the Christian worldview, this is what I believe. And you may disagree, but that's fine. That's why we're here, right? So I think that abortion should be illegal, and I believe that if a woman, the connection that a woman has to her unborn baby is something that a lot of us men just simply can't fathom or understand. You know what I mean? A woman would be willing to give their life for their children if she actually loves their children. Most mothers love their children. I'm not going to say all of them because you got some monsters out there. But most women out there love their children. They will be willing to die to give their life up so that their child might have a chance to live. So I don't agree with you when you say that a lot of women are going to die. And that's part of childbirth. Those things could happen. If we separate our feelings from the facts, and we look at society, that's
Sorry, that right there kind of irritated me right there. The whole and. Okay. When we have the technology to save the mother and possibly save her reproductive system by aborting a non-viable fetus, then that right there kind of goes into a question of morality in and of itself. Are we more moral because we refuse to save the woman because of the law, or are we more moral because we saved a woman's life by taking out the thing that would have killed her? Okay. The thing is there's a vast majority of the abortions that aren't used as a form of birth control are specifically for health situations regarding the mother. Okay, whether that be a minor or a very young minor getting pregnant, or the cases of rape and incest and ectopic pregnancies and any other form of non-viable birth. Okay, and this is where I really get into it with G-Man, just for the simple fact that I don't understand where his moral system comes from on this situation, because I know quite a few Christians that will agree with you that when it comes to the safety of the mother, then obviously, if the mother is going to end up dead before the baby is born, then there's no point in trying to save the baby, because you're actually getting two separate situations there where, baby's going to kill the mother because of where it's situated, and baby's going to die because mother's dead. So, I mean, the logical and even moral standpoint from that, in my opinion, is to save the mother. Okay, if the baby's already non-viable, then baby's non-viable. There's nothing you can do about that. Okay, it's basically just a very, well, I don't want to say unsanitary, but it's a very bad form of a miscarriage. And yes, a miscarriage or an abortion will have an emotional impact on the mother, especially some of the horror stories I've heard about the DNC procedure after an abortion or a miscarriage. The thing that G-Man doesn't understand, and I do point it out to him a little bit later, is the fact that there's three guys on the screen. We can't have kids, and I don't see the point of trying to talk to each other about something that not only can we not experience, but we're guys. I don't see the concept. And I'm a single dad. I have custody of my kids, or I have primary custody at least, and I don't understand, for the most part, why this should be up to us in the first place. Okay, there are many health reasons to get an abortion. There are many health issues that it can cause. Okay, women understand this. They should be entitled to their own bodily autonomy.
That's just how it is. Even if you look in the animal kingdom, a mother lion or a mother cat or whatever will risk their lives for the sake of their babies. You know what I mean? As humans, we will do the same thing too. You know what I mean? So if you outlaw abortion and then she has a baby and it's a possibility that she's going to die, that's natural. Okay, most people go to these abortion clinics, and I think you already touched on this. Most people go to these abortion clinics so that they can stop being responsible. They go out there, they have sex with their boyfriends, and they don't want to be responsible, so they want to get an abortion. A lot of times it has nothing to do with whether or not the woman's going to live or not. And even if that was the case, again, most mothers is going to do that anyway. You know what I mean? So I got to disagree with you on that one. In order for us to thrive, we have to get rid of abortion. We got to make people be responsible for their actions, and we got to let we have to get rid of.
And that I don't agree with. I couldn't actually find a study on that one, but I still don't agree with the fact that most women use abortions as a form of birth control. I do know that some women do, but at the same time, the number of abortions per year has actually gone down ever since Roe v. Wade. That is actually an objective fact. I could I'll see about linking a study to that when I post this video. But that is actually an objective fact. Okay, the thing is the safer our safe sex education classes get, or the more educational they become, the more the kids are not using abortion as a form of birth control. They're being more responsible. They are using condoms. They are using birth control. They are using Plan B, uh, which is causing us not to have to use abortion as a form of birth control. Okay, it is overall getting better, and that's something I agree with. Which is the reason which is another reason why I am still pro-choice, is the simple fact that the only excuse that I can see for an abortion is the health and safety of either the mother or the baby.
Of abortion altogether.
Okay, what about
this is what I believe. If you disagree with me on that one, follow up.
Okay, what about in the cases of rape and incest?
Well, without sounding insensitive, as far as rape goes, because I know I come across as being very insensitive on this topic, so I'm gonna try to be sensitive on this one this time.
Okay.
That's a terrible and a horrible thing that a man can do to a woman. A horrible thing if he forces himself sexually on a woman, and it would be double horrible for her if she had to, like look at a baby that came from him. But that baby had nothing to do with what happened. If she don't want to keep the baby, she can give the baby up for adoption. Perhaps that baby will grow up and be the person to do something about rapists. Make laws that would make it more undesirable for men to do those kind of things. As far as incest goes, again, you can give them up for adoption. There are other options that you have. You don't necessarily have to raise them yourself, even if the baby is going to be deformed. You know what I mean? Give the baby an opportunity to live and do something in society. We have people with Down syndrome who are doing phenomenal things in the world.
The problem is G-Man seems to not quite understand that rape and incest are emotionally scarring. Okay, I do have two things over here. The one that I actually mentioned here in just a second is this one right here, which is actually an article in the New York Times. There it is. It's literally an 11-year-old girl in Argentina. She was raped. The hospital denied her an abortion. Okay. She was raped by her grandmother's boyfriend. Okay, so old man, young girl, and when she finally figured it out, she was, I believe she was 19 weeks along already. Yeah, this doctor discovered she was 19 weeks pregnant, sent her to the public hospital, and the boyfriend got arrested, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, the hospital, because they didn't want to have to, the little girl and her mother, they made it clear that they wanted to terminate the pregnancy. The little girl was actually quoted as saying, "Get this old man," or up here. People were showing solidarity. The hashtag was "Girls Not Mothers." I want you to remove what this old man put inside of me. Okay, I mean, this little girl was raped, and she ended up having a C-section, forcing this little girl to have a C-section to deliver this baby. And the experts even said that the baby was unlikely to survive. Okay, so this was a non-viable pregnancy, and literally an 11-year-old girl raped. I mean, this is, again, my moral relativism coming into play, but at the same time, also, there's definitely a universal thing where I'm pretty sure that we can all agree that this is monstrous. Okay. And I mean, that's just this one right here. I'll put a link to this article in the description as well. And then the one that I was talking about earlier about the this one right here was actually the girl's uncle. I was actually apparently confusing both stories. But this one is in Alabama. And I mean, you know, G-Man said he wanted to keep it in the United States. So that's fine. This one right here is in Alabama. This one was killed. This one was raped by her uncle. See here. Sorry, it would be her. What is it? Her half uncle or her step uncle when she was 15. Okay, she ended up having 4 kids by this guy, and when he got out of jail on a completely unrelated charge, see here, well, she had 4 kids. One of them was a miscarriage. One of them died in infancy. She ended up with 2 kids. Okay, but the thing is the state that she lived in, even though it was a very justified reason that he raped her. He is actually trying to, express his parental rights to see his kids. Okay, so now you're talking about the clear and convincing evidence is what I meant. But this right here is basically saying that the rapist has a right to see his kids. So now, not only are you going to torture that woman for having the kids, for now raising the kids, but now you're going to basically torture her by saying, oh, and by the way, for the next 18 years, you're going to have to deal with your rapist as a co-parent. You know, I'm sorry, but that right there is utterly ridiculous and not acceptable. And this right here is one of those things where using religion over secularism is definitely not in the best interest of your population.
You know what I mean? We have people that are born with 2 heads that are loved by their parents. You know what I mean? And are contributing to the world.
I don't see where those Siamese twins came into play, but yeah. So I see those ads on Facebook every now and then, but that's about it. So I don't understand how he thinks that that was supposed to be one person when they're literally just conjoined twins. They are 2 separate people.
That's not an excuse to kill them. They should get an opportunity to contribute.
Okay, but are we also talking about it at the expense of the mother?
At the expense of the mother. Again, the mother, a real mother, a loving mother, who, and we talked about this in the beginning of this debate, the mother really loved the baby. The mother would never entertain the idea of killing their baby. Never.
Okay. What about a 12-year-old girl?
A 2-year-old girl?
No, a 12-year-old girl. There was a case down in South America. Let me explain. There was a case down in South America. I forget which country it is. I'm pretty sure somebody smarter than me in the chat would be able to tell me. But
that's the reason.
There was a man. He raped his 12-year-old niece, and because they have such strict abortion laws down there, this 12-year-old girl was literally forced to give birth to this child. Okay, can you not tell me that wouldn't scar this little girl for life? I mean, is that not a horribly immoral act?
Let me make sure I heard the age correctly. You said 12?
Yes.
Oh, that's mind-boggling right there. I'm not even going to front. That's mind-boggling. But I would still say, for the sake of society and us growing and thriving and growing and multiplying here on the earth, that it'd be better that she had it than practice, sacrificing our babies. Would it scar her? It probably would. Can she get help for it? Yes, she can. But I'm not going to make an excuse for a person to kill their unborn baby who had nothing to do with what happened to her or anything like that. You know what I mean? So again, as a Christian, I believe in objective moral values, and I believe that our society should be based on objective moral values. And I don't believe that everything is relative, because when you got a society that's based on relativism, everybody's going to do whatever they think is okay. We can't have a society like that because we're gonna have anarchy if that's the case.
Okay. The only thing I can say on that though is sadly that's the reason why this world is so screwed up, is because that is the case. That's the reason why we need to come up with better universally preferred behavior.
That's why you're gonna become a Christian again soon, my friend. You're getting close.
No, that ain't
the Bible says that mankind is fallen, and the Bible says that humanity is not good. Let me ask you this question: a lot of humanists believe that human beings are basically good. Do you believe that human beings are basically good, or do you believe that human beings are basically evil?
Neither. I believe that they're capable of good, but that does not mean that they are intrinsically moral or immoral. That's also why I'm an altruist.
All right. Well, again, from a Christian point of view and a Christian perspective, I believe that that human beings are basically evil, and that apart from God, we can do no good. At least.
And that's where obviously I disagree with them. As I said, I do believe that humans are capable of good and evil. I'm not going to deny that. We obviously see, good and evil in every day. But the concept of, all humans are bad, flat blanket, I don't see it. I've had civil discussions with people that I fundamentally disagree with on so many levels, and yet I can still treat them like human beings. Okay. There's certain issues that I have that I believe are inexcusable. I do not like talking to misanthropes because, when you just completely put a blanket ban on all of humanity, then we have issues. Because, sorry, but I'm a human.
It's not in his eyes anyway. And that's and again, this idea of you doing whatever you want, based on your own moral values or whatever, is the reason why the world is the way it is today. You even admitted it yourself. Moral relativism is not good for society. Christian morality is the way we should go.
I don't see where I admitted that moral relativism was not the solution, because that's what I was arguing for. So if anyone wanted to point that out to me, I'd appreciate it, because I didn't see it.
Anyone who believes in objective moral values understands that something is absolutely right and something is absolutely wrong. And even atheists believe this. They just don't want to admit it because, there's a God involved if they do.
Do you believe that society is better now than it was 2,000 years ago?
In what way?
In general.
I would need you to be specific. If you're talking about with technology, then of course yes. But if you're saying from a moral perspective, no. I think we're horrible today in comparison to like maybe 100 or 200 or 300 years ago. The divorce rate in the United States is ridiculous.
Okay, hold on a second. You said from a moral perspective and then immediately jumped to divorce. No, I'm talking about how we treat other people, first of all, especially the ones that we disagree with, versus say 300 years ago. We'll call it that. So the 1700s. Now, if you look at that from that,
I believe that we're a lot more polite with each other. I believe that back then.
One sec, just to be sure sorry. I just want to be sure Johnny got to finish that question or that thought. I wasn't sure if he was. Were you still trying to get a thought out, Johnny?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Go ahead. I just to be sure, I totally we'll let you respond, G-Man. I just wanted to be sure that I got the full thought out.
Okay. No, I mean, from a moral perspective, say 300 years ago, so back in the 1700s, okay, do we treat each other better now than we did back then? Are we running around burning witches at the stake? Are we worried about, how many slaves we own or anything like that?
Oh, wow. I can't believe you use those as examples. Not only do I believe we're worse today, but I believe we're doing worse things today.
So apparently G-Man thinks that, we're treating our slaves a lot worse today than we are right now. But yeah, he wanted me to keep it in America. That's why I went back 300 years and not back 2,000 years. So,
While we may not necessarily have slavery, but we got sex trafficking going on today. Slavery still exists,
We had
by the
that
way,
back
in
then.
Africa. I don't know if you know that or not, but slavery still exists in Africa.
I agree. There's
No,
an
we are not
Islamic
treating
country up
each
there
other.
in northern Africa.
Racism existed 300 years ago. Racism exists
yeah,
today.
there's actually like
The only
15
difference
different
is
countries
people
that still
are showing their racism a lot differently today than they did back then. You know what I mean? So I would disagree with you if you're saying that our morality today is better than it was 300 years ago. As a matter of fact, I believe our morality was better 1,000 years ago than it is today.
So 1,000
Again,
years ago,
I
as in
believe
during
that
the
it is
Dark Ages.
morally wrong to get a divorce. I believe that
Yeah,
is
back
morally
when
wrong to
religion
get a
owned
divorce.
everything.
The divorce rate in America, what is it, like 55% now? You have a 55% chance of getting divorced? 300 years ago, that number was only 15 to 20%. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even 15%. It was probably like 10% back then. Because when you got married, you stayed married until you died. Usually in those days. But I gotta disagree with you, man, on that one. We're nowhere near better than we were 300 years ago.
Sorry about that.
Look at all the babies that are being murdered and killed today. Come on.
Okay, you do realize that since Roe versus Wade, the number of abortions per year has gone down, right?
No. I'll have to
Yes,
look at the stats on that. But
yeah, if you actually look it up by
Are
year.
you aware since they took prayer out of school? Are you aware since they took prayer out of school that there have been bomb threats in these schools, that they have went inside these schools and they started shooting people ever since they took prayer out of school?
I live in Oklahoma.
It's disgusting.
That's the problem. I live in Oklahoma. My son turns around and complains every day because one of his friends brings his Bible to school. Okay, they never took it out. They just stopped regulating, or they just stopped mandating it.
And to actually answer his question, if that were the case, then there would have never been a bomb in any church. And we just had one of those down in Texas not too long ago, isn't it? Haven't we? Or sorry, not a bomb, but there had never been shooters in church. And we just had a shooting down in Texas, sometime in the last couple of years too, that was classified as a shooting or a massacre. So, I mean, did we take God out of churches too? Because otherwise, that argument's just kind of whether you want to call it a straw man or a non sequitur, it's unrelated to the topic.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I believe that our morality today is nowhere near as good as it was 300, 500, or 1,000 years ago. I think it was better back then. Did slavery exist in those days? Absolutely. A transatlantic slave trade, the KKK existed and all of that. But just because they went
KKK
underground doesn't mean that those same things aren't practiced anymore. Huh?
I mean, the KKK exists today. I mean, Hillary's best friends with one of them.
I can't argue with that.
I don't defend politicians. I don't know who does.
The prison system is modern day slavery today, if you ask me. And that's another thing. If this nation was truly following out the Christian values, I don't know if you notice or not, but the prison system wouldn't exist. This prison system would not exist under a true Christian system. You want to know why? Find me anywhere in the Old or the New Testament where God told the Israelites to throw somebody into jail for the rest of their life. It is not in the Bible. And I actually learned that from Ken Hovind. The prison system does not exist in Scripture. Not as far as the law goes. If you broke the law back then, you was either made a servant, a slave, or you were killed.
Yeah, that was kind of a mind wipe for what he just said there, that he had to learn it from Ken Hovind. As I make these videos, it's going to become clear. I have absolutely zero respect for Ken Hovind. He's dishonest, and I have no intentions of ever debating that man.
Because that's better?
You got capital punishment. No, let me tell you something. If a man in the Old Testament, right? Matter of fact, let's not use the Old Testament. Let's just say today, right? If a man, let's say he went out there and he raped a woman, right? What is the punishment today for a man that rapes a woman today?
Not enough.
What is the punishment?
That depends. Are we talking, if he actually gets convicted?
Yeah, if he gets convicted, he gets like 5 years in prison, and he gets put in a database. And that's supposed to scare rapists? No. In the Bible, you was either killed, and I know a lot of people.
Oh, it's cringy every time I hear him say this, and you'll see my reaction to this as I expect him to say it. G-Man, this is one argument you have got to stop using. I swear. Okay, the whole idea of it being a punishment for the guy to be able to essentially buy, live with, and continue to rape the woman that he raped is not a good argument. And it is probably one of your worst arguments. And I don't understand how you can conceivably say that him basically buying, living with, and continuing to be able to rape his victim would be in any way better than allowing her to maintain her freedom and him still having to support her from a distance so he cannot continue to rape her. This isn't a punishment for the guy, okay? Because no guy back then would turn around and go, I don't like the way she looks, so I'm going to rape her for the fun of it. No, it's, I want a piece of that, and I want to keep having a piece of that. Okay? That's where those rapes came into play. And when they were able to buy the mother and go, oh, well, I guess it is now my punishment to have to continue doing this for the rest of her life. I mean, seriously, come on. I don't know how unstupid you can make that. I mean, that is just ridiculous, and it makes every Christian argument look bad when you use that as part of your argument.
People ain't gonna like me saying this, but this is what the Bible says. Because society was a little different. Because society was a little different.
So because society was relatively different, he was have to force to marry the woman, right?
No, that's not what I was gonna say. I was gonna say because society was different and the rules were different back then. You know what I mean? The rapist was gonna be forced to take care or to marry and take care of his victim for the rest of her life.
I love how he said that's not what I was going to say, and then goes ahead and says it anyway. I mean, that's just the only word he didn't use was relative. But because it was a relatively different time and a relatively different society, and that moral is relatively different back then than it is now, apparently morals are still absolute. I don't quite understand that.
Again, a lot of atheists get that wrong because they're not looking at it from a society issue. What they're doing is that they're comparing today with back then, and they're making a mistake doing that. You know what I mean? But I believe that if this was truly a Christian nation, you know what I mean? If a man did something like that, you take him outside the city, you pick up a bunch of rocks, or you just give him the death penalty or whatever. You know what I mean?
I'm a firm believer in chemical castration.
People like that, we can't have them in society.
I was just saying that to be facetious. I was trying to see if I could actually get a rise out of him, and he just completely ignored it.
You just can't have them. You got to get rid of them.
It's not a bad
Can't have rapists in society. We can't have murderers in society. We can't have people out there thinking that it's okay to break the law. Those people should be eliminated and taken out. You know what I mean? Not thrown into a jail cell where they're going to be fed 3 times a day, clothed, given Nintendo in their cells a lot of times, made comfortable, pretend they're being rehabilitated so they can get out and do the same thing again. That's the atheist way.
No, I thought you said
them all together.
Oh, hold on. I thought you just said that prison was slavery, and now they've got Nintendos and stuff like that.
I understand that G-Man's firmly stuck in the 90s, but I'm pretty sure they have something a little bit better than Nintendo's if they have that at all. And I'm also curious as to where they have video games at all, because most of the jails that you actually see nowadays, they're basically allowed to work out and they might be allowed books. I've seen some of the ingenious ways that they're even allowed to be able to play games like Dungeons and Dragons, and all that requires is dice, but they can't use dice because that's a form of gambling. So, I mean, they have to come up with some very inventive ways just to be able to pretend to be other people. So,
No. I'm arguing.
and
I'm
that's when they're
arguing
allowed to actually
against prison.
socialize.
I'm saying eliminate them. I don't think you heard what I said. I said that's what that's the secular way of dealing with things, to throw them into prison to rehabilitate them. That's what atheists are doing.
And no, actually, that's what private prisons are doing. Okay. I really don't understand how he's thinking that, all private prison owners are atheists. The thing is when you're conflating something like that to a system, then you're not really giving it a fair comparison. I mean, this entire thing is loaded with equivocation fallacies, and I'll be the first to admit I did notice a couple on my part too. The one of the main issues that I'm noticing though is that when I do it, it's more of a it didn't come out right, so it comes off as either begging a question or being an equivocation fallacy. When G-Man does it, it sounds almost like he's trying to make a metaphor or an analogy, and then severely screwing it up. And it's interesting to actually see the reasoning that he's trying to use, but at the same time, there's very little reason in there.
If it was up to us, these people would be eliminated.
Okay, well, I mean, from a population standpoint, that might be a good thing, considering we're getting overpopulated. But I mean, the whole issue there, though, is, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe that the punishments for rape is woefully underrated. You can get 20 years for having a joint in your pocket in the wrong state. But
I'll take it a step further, bro. Check this out. What's the definition of rape in the United States? And every state's got a different definition for it. It's crazy.
So here in Oklahoma, I believe it is the unconsensual physical contact or something like that, or unconsensual physical sexual contact.
Yeah, then it's statutory rape if you end up having sex with a minor.
Yeah, whether it's consensual or not.
It's just crazy that some of these things that they got in this country regarding this topic.
Yeah. Now here in Oklahoma,
all a woman's got to do is say, "Oh, he touched me," and then you raped her or whatnot. It's crazy.
What I was trying to say there is here in Oklahoma we have the saying that 15 will get you 20, which is the the standard statutory thing. I'm pretty sure that applies to other states as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's because our age of consent is 16, as long as you're within 2 years.
So I don't know how much more we can talk about this without yelling at each other.
That felt like a natural point to transition to Q&A if you guys are up for some sweet questions.
That's fine.
You got it? Very excited.
Yeah, I would love that. And I like to thank Johnny for having this conversation because he made me think a little bit.
Well, I wanted to prove to you that not all atheists are liars and mean people. Okay, I mean, like I said in the pre-chat, if you ever decide to come down here, I got a steak in the fridge waiting for you.
I don't know. I might take you up on that.
Okay.
Radical. And thank you guys very much for being here. Oh, hold on a second. First up, Steven Steen, thanks for your super chat. They said, G-Man just won his second debate of the night on Modern Day Debate. Good job, G-Man. The one you won right before coming here, that was the most impressive one since you were a moderator. Next up, thanks for your super chat, Sigifredo Sarabia. In the house, they said, Johnny, you just said there are, quote-unquote, universal preferred behaviors around the world. How is that relative if preferred behavior is no longer based on location?
Because there's a difference between universally preferred behavior and objective behavior. Objective the actual nature of the word objective means mind independent. So it would be appropriate to say it's universally preferred, but it's not appropriate to say it's objective.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Next up, thanks for your super chat, Stupid Whore Energy, as she calls herself. Pretty sick. She says, do you think that found money should be brought back to the local police first before
I'm kind of wondering
pocketing
if this is
it?
going back to G-Man.
I agree. You should turn around and take that to the police, and if nobody claims it in 30 days, I believe is our local statute for that, then it's yours.
Yeah, I like to respond to that. My answer for that is if you have a document from the police after you brought it to the police and they say that you can keep it, then there shouldn't be a problem, you know. But I appreciate the question, Stupid Whore Energy.
What's the limit, by the way? Does the state? Do you have
now.
in Oklahoma? Out of curiosity, do they have like a limit where they say like, but if it's less than $5, you don't have to bring it in, or do they say like? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's anything less than 20. Like if it's not going to seriously impact somebody's ability to pay rent or something like that, then they don't really care.
Okay, that makes sense. Touche. Thanks, Stupid Whore Energy, for your other super chat. She said, G-Man, are you aware that... You can tell she's getting sassy. G-Man, are you aware that families thrive more when there's a gay brother or sister? They don't have families of their own, so they put more effort into the existing family survival.
Actually, the super chat was correct on that one. When you have a sibling in the family that is incapable of having kids, you end up with that loving aunt or loving uncle that ends up kind of putting their affection off on your kids. So yes, there is actually it basically puts it to where there is an extra optional parent in there, which kind of goes right into that whole thing about the child developing as more prone to developing as a fully functioning adult. Okay, when they have more and better role models, that tends to happen. And of course, the fact that they're gay or lesbian or whatever kind of reinforces the non-judgmental factor of the child.
I added the last part. But yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
G-Man.
Yeah. Stupid Whore Energy. Your name appropriately. Gives me the answer to what I think to what you just said. Just minus the whore and the energy. All right. So that's it.
That was a really convoluted way of calling them stupid.
Appreciate your super chat, Stupid Whore Energy, who said, oh, we got that one. Forgive me. She said, G-Man, gynephilia and androphilia are genetic. You are gay. I don't know what gay means. Go ahead, G-Man.
Okay, so my answer to that is what you're going to do when Hulkamania runs wild on you. That's my answer for that.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
You're not a nice person.
Pitch in on that one. G-Man, do you know what gynephilia and androphilia are?
Actually, I don't. But what you going to do when Hulkamania runs wild on you is my answer.
Gynephilia is the attraction towards women. Androphilia is the attraction towards men.
Gotcha. What do you think about that?
Very basic
G-Man?
Latin. It's
that's my answer for that.
Gotcha. Thank you very much then. Okay, next up, Stupid Whore Energy asks, G-Man's camera's back on. Did you support the Iraq War, and if so, were you okay with collateral damage that resulted in the death of babies?
Is that directed at me or
Did I support the Iraq War?
I think both, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay, I supported the Iraq War when I actually thought there was weapons of mass destruction over there. When I found out there was no weapons of mass destruction, I gave up on our political system altogether. I thought George W. Bush was the worst president.
atheists pontificate themselves as smart because they know medical terms that anyone can look up. No, the point of that is the point of that is it's not really that we think of ourselves as smart. It's the simple fact that in general, people that like to explain things tend to pontificate a lot. Okay, the act of pontificating is just explaining and throwing your hands around and everything like that. So pontification achieved.
in United States history. So if you really want to know how I feel about that, that's how I feel.
Gotcha.
I was only about 15 when that whole thing went down, so honestly, I didn't give it much consideration until I tried getting into the military, and then it turned into a big dumpster fire. So I turned around and decided not to.
You got it.
Excuse me, I have a few more questions if you don't mind.
So for our next super chat, Stupid Horror Energy, she says, there's nothing wrong with abortion as birth control. It's what makes women equal to men.
I can agree with that in the simple fact that I've had a vasectomy, so I mean, my birth control's taken care of.
Gotcha. Thank you. G-Man, thoughts? Not on his vasectomy, but on the question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Abortion is murder.
G-Man does not seem to agree with you, Stupid Horror Energy. But let's see. Next up, Loken. Sorry, I missed your super.
One thing I've noticed, I've seen a lot of this one right here, that Pazuzu's on a roll here. Pazuzu, that is an old Sumerian or Babylonian god, but that also happens to be the name of Professor Farnsworth's gargoyle in Futurama. So I'm wondering really which one this is in reference to, because I've heard it explained as the god, and I've heard it explained as the gargoyle in these previous debates that I've seen.
Super chat. They said, G-Man wins. You got a fan out there, G-Man. G-Man?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered
immediately.
immediately.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
We weren't here.
You know, I know you're being sarcastic. All right.
No! G-Man, serious, come on. Jay Shy, thanks for your question. They said, please ask Johnny if it's based off of instinct, then is it okay for a killer to follow his instinct? And if not, how do you know your instincts are right and theirs are not?
Because as a social species, like I said, we have universally preferred behavior. If we have an outlier that goes against that grain, then they are ostracized from the community. If you look at a pack of wolves, it's the same way. If you've got that one rogue wolf, they will chase his ass out the pack.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
Next up, Jesus is Lord asks, for Johnny, no good can atheism adopt.
I did catch that earlier on the super chat. Apparently, he was calling me Johnny No Good instead of Johnny Be Good. So I'm assuming that was the Back to the Future reference. But what G-Man's doing up here, sitting there playing around with flyers and stuff like that, instead of actually paying attention, I find that very, very disrespectful.
Do what?
I'm trying to make sense of this. They said, no good can I think that maybe can atheism adopt Nazism if it works?
I don't find that it works, so...
Are we talking about the Nazi ideal, or are we talking about communism? I mean, those are two separate things, but obviously they're both rooted in the same Marxist fascism, and I'm not really a fan of that. So I don't subscribe to that particular form of atheism.
Gotcha.
If you want to call it that, which I don't.
Gotcha. Next up, thank you very much. Got a question from Hayward Jeb Lomi. Thanks for your question. He said, G-Man, why don't feral children have the same morality as you? Like feral children, like children raised in the wild. Kids that are like out on their own.
Oh, okay.
Like Tarzan.
Oh, Tarzan. I thought Tarzan was a fictional Because I don't think a human being can really be raised by a lion or a tiger or anything like that.
You know what?
No,
Feral
we do
children,
have- we do have
wild
cases of
children.
it.
That was. You talking about people born in the Congo or something like that, or in Africa or something like that? Because I don't really understand the question.
That's right, I am.
Yeah, feral children, children that were raised in the wild by animals.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't think a child can be raised by an animal. Sorry, I don't agree with that one at all. That's a nonsensical question to me.
No, I'm going to go ahead and point out on that one though. The feral children, they do tend to adopt the pack morality of the animal that they were raised by.
Gotcha.
How are you raised by a tiger? So you're telling me that there are examples of people out there that's getting breastfed by a tiger or a lion or whatever?
No, generally canids or primates.
Again, I don't believe that. So I'll look into it though, and I'll give you an answer sometime in the future.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. We just had a super chat come in from Stupid Whore Energy. She says, Johnny, do you agree that natural selection is myopic and has only designed us to make us safe, in all caps, rather than comfortable?
I barely got a high school education. Myopic isn't really a word that I'm familiar with. If she wants to, I do believe that evolution is designed to make us, more adaptable, which you could construe as being safe, essentially to propagate the species. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do we know that Stupid Whore Energy is a woman? I don't think I've ever seen Stupid Whore Energy.
What?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her.
Oh, okay.
And you expect me to believe
right.
you?
Okay, I don't know.
actually
We'll
clicked
take
on
her
her
word
icon
for it.
because it's-
Thank you very much. The real non sequitur. Thanks for your question. They said, for G-Man, do tomboys come from a heterosexual couple? Yes or no?
I think. Oh, hold on. Let me show you guys. Okay, yeah. So I think tomboys can come from a heterosexual couple as well as a male-dominated, I guess, homosexual couple. But the reason why we get them from heterosexual couples is because usually the daughter is pretty close with the dad and prefers to be around guys rather than girls, and that's why a lot of times she'll act tomboyish. All right.
Now, is that a bad thing?
Apparently, G-Man has no concept of daddy's girl or mama's boy because he got that one completely backwards.
No, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a bad thing when she goes all the way and she starts saying, "No, I'm not really a girl, I'm a boy," or just decides she wants to be a lesbian or something like that. That's when I think it becomes bad.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Next up, had a super chat from Jay Shy. Thanks very much. They said, Johnny, your Wolfpack example fails to show who is morally right. It only shows how majority agree or not. Majority isn't always correct, though.
I fully agree with that. Actually, the Nazis weren't fully correct, but if they had won, in Germany, then obviously we'd all be thinking like that. So yes, I agree. It's not majority is always right. It's the majority, it's the majority that makes the decision, which is the reason why we have so many problems.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Next up, got a question from the real non sequitur. I always wonder who this is. I'm kind of do I know them since the falling out with the non-sec?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's a
but
soccer
they
kind of
said, for G-Man, oh gosh, that's embarrassing. I just read that one. Sorry. Okay. Akiraz Kizanidi, thanks to your question, they said, does G-Man understand the First Amendment? Yeah, G-Man, do you?
What the First Amendment? What is that? The right to bear arms, or is that the freedom of speech? Which one?
Yeah,
that's the
Is
freedom
it the
of
right to bear
expression.
arms, or the freedom of expression? Right.
exactly.
Oh yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and I believe that law needs to be changed a little bit because that it is not really fully understood in our society today. Some people think that because they have the freedom of expression, that means that they can go around calling people the N-word, and go around calling people all kinds of racial slurs, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I believe that should be illegal in the United States. That's not freedom of expression. That's asking for a black eye. That's what that is. Like, right or wrong, Johnny? Am I lying about that? Do you think that people should have the freedom to walk around calling black people the N-word, and black people have the right to go around calling another person another racial slur or whatever? Do you believe that freedom should still exist, or do you believe that freedom should be limited?
Well, the thing is I do believe that
Being
freedom
a southerner
should.
and all, you know.
Well, hold on.
Being a southerner and all.
Hold on. See, I do agree that the freedom to do that exists, but the problem is there should also be the freedom to retaliate, because that is a form of provocation. So I do.
What I meant by that is the freedom to express yourself is one point. Okay. However, if you are a southern white redneck and you are stupid enough to walk into the ghetto and spout off that word, then you're rolling the dice. Okay. Honestly, what I think we need to do is we need to get it in the mindset of people just to not be racist. Okay. I mean, G-Man's black, James is white. I am everything. I'm a mud. Okay. The problem is the only real difference here is, how developed our cans are. Okay. We're all human. There is no reason to be discriminatory based on how dark your skin is, or based on who you're attracted to, or anything like that. Okay. There's just no point. Okay. Just because you're attracted to men and I'm not, doesn't make you any more or less human than me. Okay. Now, if you are hardwired to be attracted to little kids, then obviously that doesn't match with our accepted moral behavior, which means that you are either going to have to control those urges, or we're going to have to control them for you. Okay. There's that's where my morality, spectrum comes into play. Okay.
I do believe that if you are called a black person, I'm not going to say that word, but if you are called that, then you have every right to give them a black eye. Okay, I do not believe that it should go any further than that. I believe a smack on the face or something like that is more than appropriate. But
I know one thing is they come in the hood using that.
Of course, I was thinking of the whole, give slap from NCIS thing, where you get pop on the back of the head or something. More along the lines of, why the hell are you stupid enough to say that? Type deal. Honestly, I think there is a major sensitivity factor in being racist, and white people are just as guilty of it as black people. I mean, if you're going to be dumb enough to spout that word, then obviously somebody was dumb enough to teach it to you or indoctrinate it into your head as you were growing up, that somehow dehumanizing somebody is going to either make you feel superior or make you feel that like they are inferior. And I think it's pointless. So yeah, I do believe that corrective smack is nothing harmful, but at the same time I was starting to chew on my tongue again and I didn't quite get it out right.
Using that language, if they come in the hood talking about some, you're in, I don't know if they're going home or not.
No,
and
and
go
see
home in a
that's when
wheelchair.
provocation goes too far.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
Gotcha.
That's why I should outlaw it altogether.
You got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that question. Next up, Jesus is Lord asks, also known as Jill. For Johnny, so your pragmatic altruism isn't so pragmatic for unborn humans?
my pragmatic altruism isn't so pragmatic for unborn humans. I guess not. I don't see unborn humans. I see a fetus until at least the third trimester. Now,
Can
like
I,
I said,
can I follow up on that?
I don't deal
Can I
with
follow up
late-term
on that?
abortion or anything like that. I don't approve of it unless it's specifically to save the life of the mother.
Yeah, and that's the difference again between atheists and Christians. Christians don't see a third trimester or a fetus or a zygote or anything like that. We see a baby there. We see a life there, and we believe that if you eliminate that life, that that's murder. And again, going forward, Christianity would be a far superior.
I'm really curious as to, at what point during conception does G-Man no longer see a sperm and an egg and see a baby? Because apparently if the zygote, embryo, and fetus don't exist, then, I mean, are we talking about, is it here's the baby or is it there's the baby? Because, you're going from there to single, multicellular, zygote, fetus, and everything like that. See, I've seen the entire argument where life begins at birth, life begins at your first breath, and then suddenly it's gone down to life begins at conception because apparently they're trying to dictate exactly where that life is. But yet, if you notice, the majority of Christians are Republican, and they have some serious reservations on any type of government assistance. So they're willing to turn around and, say that, oh, that's a baby, that's your responsibility to take care of that baby and everything like that. But yet, as soon as you turn around and have that baby and now it really becomes your responsibility, it's like, well, you're on your own. And, I find that very disingenuous.
Way for the United States to go forward because at least we respect life. I don't believe atheists do.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, though, it's moot to have two guys with differing opinions about abortion talking about it. So,
Gotcha. Next.
it's not like either of us can get pregnant.
Thank God, too, because that's very painful.
Exactly.
You bet. And Cynthia Vicious, thanks for your question. She said, I want to know how G-Man justifies the atrocities commanded by God in the Bible.
What atrocities? He didn't do any atrocities in the Bible. If you're referring to the flood, that's not an atrocity. That's called a judgment. If you're referring to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, that's judgment. When you say atrocities, it's got to be. Why don't you give another super chat and be a little bit more specific about what you're talking about, and then we can decide whether or not it's an atrocity.
Gotcha. We just had one in from Sigifredo Sarabia. He's in the house. Glad to see you. He said, G-Man, how is man evil if God saw everything he made, quote unquote, and it was good? Does the Bible not defend that it's okay for divorce if she finds no favor in his eyes? I think they're talking about Old Testament Pentateuch.
Could you read the question again? Because I missed the earlier part of that.
Yes!
I'm curious on this one. It's like, Natalie says, you can't be a Christian and against freedom of speech. That's impossible. The majority of religious people, it's actually cult psychology that censoring the opposition. This is actually something that I deal with, on the carnivore side of the aisle as well, and that's one thing that I try to make sure of is I try to figure out where the cult is in any situation that I follow. And like with the diet situation, Seventh Day Adventist, vegan, Jainism, and all that other fun stuff. I'm sorry, but that's a cult. And I've noticed a lot of this, a lot of people that do the carnivore diet like I do. You know, we don't have a carnivore police if you screw up and eat a banana or something like that. It just doesn't happen that way. If you can't handle our carnivore diet, then we hope that you have at least have at least tried out for the month that it usually takes to adapt, and then if it's not working, then hey, you tried. You tried, you gave it a good effort. We're not going to hold it against you. We don't have that, how dare you defame us? You're out of the group and we never want to see you again stuff. I mean, I don't feed my children a carnivore diet. I don't see anything wrong with it inherently, but at the same time, it's my children's choice. And I'm not going to force that on them. I have, however, seen plenty of vegans do that to their children, and that's why we have vegans going to jail for murder for, their children dying from malnourishment.
So it says, how is man evil if God saw everything he made and it, quote unquote, was good? That's one question, and then we can go to the next one.
Okay, so how is man evil when God created everything that was good? Is that the question?
Yes!
Okay, man fell. Okay, when God finished creating man, he called him good. But man was corrupted by Satan when man decided to listen to Satan and disobey God, and that's when he became evil. God didn't make him that way. Man decided to be that way when he decided to rebel against God. Now, what was the second half of that question?
It was, does the Bible not defend that it's okay to divorce a woman if she, quote unquote, finds no favor in the man's eyes?
I'm not sure what passage
That was a
that
quote
they're
in
talking about,
Deuteronomy.
and
If
I
you
don't know
pay
the
attention to
circumstances in which
chat
they're
over
talking
here,
about.
eventually
They got to be a little bit
Sabella
more
is gonna,
specific. So I
post
don't know what
the
they're talking about.
actual, verse itself.
I don't
Probably been
know.
about
The Old
10 years since I've
Testament,
read the
law
Bible,
that was
so.
given to Israel, I need to know what they're talking about specifically.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And I think that we have caught up with all the questions. Sister Fredo Sarabia, your avatar is different. I just noticed that right now. But we are stoked, folks. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I don't know if I've got any more. I had some trollish ones. This one's like quasi-trollish. Nathan Thompson, who, by the way, Flat Earther, he's going to be debating with Praise I Am That I Am this coming Saturday, and it's going to be awesome.
Yes!
Hope you can make it.
I'll definitely be listening to that at work.
Exactly.
It's going to
Yeah,
be terrific.
same here. I like to publicly
I tried
thank
listening
Johnny
to it.
for agreeing to having this debate, because he shows that there are at least 0.5% of respectful atheists out there that are willing to have a conversation like this and not like get over like emotional about talking about these things. And I appreciate that, Johnny.
Oh, I'll disagree with you there again. I do believe that number is considerably higher. It's just, when we have certain people out there that get incredibly passionate about it, like Matt and Aaron, it does make the majority of us look a little bad. And then of course we've got the trolls in the comments.
Yeah,
Well, actually, the trolling today wasn't that bad, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been worse.
I wasn't actually referring to these comments. I'm talking about some of the other ones that I've seen. Because I've seen some really bad trolls.
There was
quite
a few
Well, in the chat today?
No, not today. I've seen quite a few though.
Okay.
Correct.
It's true. And Tioga Art, thanks for your super chat. I'm going to come right back to Nathan Thompson's question right after Tioga Art. Thank you. She said, does God actually love all, with capital letters, people?
I believe that God loves everybody. However, God doesn't necessarily love everything that people do.
I'll point out up here, Jay Shy says, so Johnny just admitted that he doesn't know if he's morally correct. He believes he is, but we don't know who is correct other than a wolf pack selecting it off of instincts. I'm going to point out earlier when I said, I'm going to point out a little bit earlier when I said that, altruism takes yourself out of the equation and allows you to be able to look at it from a different perspective. Okay. I believe I'm morally correct in the fact that when I take myself out of any given situation, I believe that treating people equally and treating people in the same situation, treating people the same way in the same situation is morally correct. That's my personal beliefs. Okay. But I guess he is partially right in the fact that we don't know who's correct. But the wolf pack selecting it off of instincts, morals are instinctually ingrained in us. I mean, unfortunately, if somebody was born with some weird neural synapses that told him it was morally right to rape people, then he would be immoral for not doing it. Okay, I mean that would be some really twisted gene manipulation to get that to happen, but it would still change. It still wouldn't change that objective measurement tool that you're using there, in that it would actually be immoral of that particularly messed up person to not rape. So it is instinctual, and luckily we weeded out the ones that do that kind of stuff.
I believe he loves his creation. John 3:16 proves that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. However,
this is a big joke with
we do some really stupid things, and I don't think he loves those things. The things that we're doing that's stupid. I don't think he loves those things at all. Like, he doesn't love stealing, he doesn't love lying, he doesn't love adultery, he doesn't love those kind of things. But he does love us.
Gotcha. And
can I?
Sure.
That quote about divorce is in Deuteronomy 24:1. Thank you, Sabella.
Gotcha. And we got another super chat. Plus, I'm trying to keep
I probably should have actually read the verse out.
Pieces of information in my brain organized. Quick, so I don't forget. Nathan Thompson, forgive me. Oh, it's been a long day. Says, ask the atheist what came first, the chicken or the egg. We take questions very seriously here, Johnny. I hope you know that now. So,
which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes, you don't have to answer it.
Oh, no, quite clearly the egg came first. The problem is the appropriate question on that is which came first, the chicken or the chicken egg?
Provocative.
I think, can I follow up on that?
Go on.
If you actually listen to the theory of evolution, it's impossible for the egg to come first because it was supposed to be a single cell that became a multi-cell. So how the heck did the egg come first?
Because eventually...
What was the reproductive system that brought about the egg?
Eventually, once we started reproducing, that was the egg. Obviously, the chicken is a modern evolution, which means that the egg is billions of years older than the chicken.
But you need a reproductive system in order to have an egg. So
I really don't think that G-Man understood that one.
Oh, gosh. That's why I was laughing when I heard that. I was like, oh, I hope he ain't going to say what I think he's going to say.
Gotcha. We do have, remember, G.
And using that as a thought experiment, if you look at it, the question of what came first, the chicken or the chicken egg, really depends on how you define the egg. I mean, are you defining the egg by what laid it or what hatched out of it? Okay, that's really the only thing. Once you agree on that, then the answer becomes incredibly easy. Because if it's by what hatches out of it, then obviously a proto chicken laid an egg that happened to be a chicken egg because it laid a chicken. Now, however, if it's by what laid it, then obviously the chicken came first out of a proto chicken egg that was laid by a proto chicken. Okay. Obviously, this stuff doesn't happen in one generation, but it's an interesting little thought experiment, and it does tend to irritate creationists.
Man and both Johnny, you guys don't have to respond if you don't want to. We do have a super chat from Stupid Whore Energy. She's coming for you, G-Man. She wants a piece of you. She says, G-Man, you're going to gel.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know that
I'm
one.
definitely going to Jello. I'm definitely going there. I'm going to get me some green Jello, some red Jello, some yellow Jello.
Where is
I'm
this?
definitely going to eat that. You're right about that. Definitely superhero energy. But I can't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow.
And you can really tell that bugs him too. I mean, it's fascinating on that one that the just the way he reacts when when it's actually called to his attention. Uh, Over the last couple of weeks, in a couple of his hangouts, he's actually turned around and started spelling out JAIL, and I find it hilarious. Now, over the last couple of days, he's stopped doing it, but every time he says it, he'll say gel, and then turn around and he'll notice in the comments where he actually goes to say it again, and then actually you can see him consciously trying to say jail. It's very interesting.
Gotcha. Sassy. All right. Thank you very much. Next, we had another super chat just come in. Jay Shy, we appreciate your super chat. They said, Johnny, you basically admitted you don't know if you're morally correct, since we rely on majority and instincts.
I have no argument on that one. I don't know. I don't absolutely know. I don't believe anybody can. That's kind of redundant.
Gotcha.
Redundant.
You got it. Thank you very much. Next up, appreciate that super chat, Jay Shy. That's embarrassing. We read that one already. There was another one, though, that just came in. Thanks for your super chat, Tioga Art. They said the lizards came first, G-Man.
The lizards came first.
Yeah.
What the heck? The lizards came.
I think he's talking about in regard to the chicken or the egg.
Yes!
Oh, okay. The lizards came. I thought it was a single cell that became a multi-cell that became a fish-like creature that became more of like a fishy-like creature that multiplied into multiple fish creatures, like that and whatnot. I thought it was the fish,
That
actually.
is funny.
So, hey, whatever.
One thing I noticed here while we were talking, G-Man is doing an awful lot of shivering, and if you look, I'm not sure if that's just a fur-lined hoodie that he's wearing, or where the inner lining is a little bit is a different color, or if he's wearing two different hoodies here. So I'm really wondering if he was doing this debate without any heat, and if that's the case, that may have been one of the reasons why he was able to stay so calm.
Gotcha.
I don't want to take full credit for it.
Hold on, G-Man, you do understand that evolution does require sex, right? I mean, it's not
exactly.
And I do
this isn't
understand.
Pokemon evolution where these things just turn into
We're not
things.
talking about Pokemon. I don't
Okay.
know why. I don't know where that joke came from.
Absolutely,
but I do
yeah.
understand this. That macroevolution has never been observed, but microevolution has. And my teacher, Dr. Ken Hovind, is the one that does a great job at bringing that out. You know what I mean? I don't believe in Pokemon evolution. That what you see on cartoons.
Ken Hovind is the one that actually compares it to that kind of evolution.
No, he isn't. No, he isn't.
He has for the last 20
Pokemon
years.
evolution. I tell you this though, what you see on Pokemon is more likely than macroevolution. That's for sure.
Wait, you believe that something can metamorphose in the middle of its life like that?
Oh, that's more likely to happen than than whether or not somebody can prove that I'm related to Brussels sprouts. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
You do realize that actually does happen, but it's only in like very small things like bugs.
yeah, it's called microevolution.
No, that's called metamorphosis.
Macroevolution doesn't happen. You want to know why? You can't prove it scientifically, even though the young lady did a decent job trying, but you just can't prove macroevolution. You can't. Nobody can.
Well,
Not theistic evolution.
Let's see here. We got a Nathan Thompson in the chat again. Gosh, this atheist is dumb. The egg came first, and evolution requires sex. Like I said, I don't understand how that's being dumb. If you look at it from a literal question to what came first, the chicken or the egg. Obviously, the egg came first because organisms, long before the chicken ever existed, were laying eggs. Right? And there are people that think that evolution, and I'm talking about the what they perceive as the theory of evolution, is what Kent Hovind tries to pass off as the whole Pokemon evolution garbage that he comes up with, where it doesn't matter if a dog lives for millions of years, it's never going to turn into a non-dog. Yeah, because it doesn't work like that. Evolution does require reproduction. Okay. I was being very blunt here when I just said it requires sex. Obviously, evolution requires propagation of the species, which can be, sexual or asexual. I really didn't think I actually needed to put that in there, but apparently, according to these comments, I do.
Nor the biological evolutionists. You can't prove it.
No, I'm talking about the whole Pokemon evolution thing. That actually does happen in during one's life, but it's called metamorphosis. That's basically the caterpillar turning into a chrysalis and turning into a butterfly.
Well, actually, no, it doesn't happen at all. When I said that, I was joking because
G-Man.
Pikachu.
G-Man, we know that you don't believe in Pokemon, I promise. However, I believe you. Just, I do want feedback because producer Dane, I'm willing to do away with the soundboard. G-Man and Johnny, you guys aren't able to hear it, but occasionally I do play with an Arnold soundboard. That like, so for example, when G-Man's like, did he say, what? Like, what did he say? And I'll play like an Arnold soundboard button where he'll like yell, he'll scream yes. People in the live chat, please let me know if you think you're like, we don't really need that. It's just a little bit too distracting. It's too unprofessional, anything like that. Let me know, and I can get rid of it. Or if you're like, I kind of like it. It adds a little spice to the mix. Let me know, because I've gotten different feedback, and I'm open to either getting rid of it or keeping it. I'm totally open. I'm not committed to having it. It was just something that I can't help but be pleased by it. Nathan Thompson likes it. Helios575 likes it. Matt Bond likes it. Works good for certain debates. That's true. They said Todd L says too much Arnie. Tioga Art says it's fine. Akirez says keep it. It's funny. Dr. Jennifer Melfi says it's kind of funny. Let's see. Jay Shy, we have a ton of debates before Christmas. We have a lot.
It's kind of funny
Trio Monkey says it's too loud. Tape
it's
Deck
kind of
says,
funny for this,
please
but
keep. Producer Dane says, well, I opened a can there.
I don't see it being effective in
Beej says keep.
Debates.
Mel says keep it. Nathan says keep it. A theory I've been considering myself. I don't know. Like, that's confusing. Keep the sound, Tyler. Mel. It's the most moderation I've ever seen you do. That's a good one. It's pretty true. Stand Alone says I like for the right debaters. I think you're right. It's like, it's definitely. They said Daryl Frost says it's on par with the professionalism of this channel. That's true. Well, I mean, it's true. Sometimes we're serious, but it's kind of true that. I like keeping it fun. It's kind of like the old Conan O'Brien shows, like back when they were like, then they're still pretty good, but like I just love that I just loved Conan O'Brien growing up. I love that it was like goofy and fun and stuff. So I don't think we'll do it for every debate, but for some debates I'll probably do it. Like tonight during the Hovind debate, it would have just been like distracting, but this one it worked, and I think people enjoyed it. So glad to get your feedback. It depends on the context, I guess. That makes sense. So sorry for the speakers. Thanks for letting me test that, run that.
No worries.
You guys.
Yeah, no problem.
I figure it'd be something a lot more appropriate to a less casual debate.
Hey, Johnny, I don't think you're going to be agnostic long, Johnny. I think in about 2 years you might end up either coming back to the church, or you might end up questioning your agnosticism. I don't think it's going to happen tonight, but.
I question it every day. That's the reason why I'm still here. I said I question it every day. That's the reason why I'm still here.
All right. Got to bring you back to the faith, but we got to do it. We got to make sure you stay this time.
Next, and thank you, Sabella, for mentioning that you guys have an epic soundboard. You got me curious. I mean, but it's hard to top the Arnold one. When I was a kid, I used to do a lot of prank phone calls with these soundboards.
The one that they have,
and that's why I just really, it pleases me to use it. But anyway, want to say thanks to our speakers for being here. I love these guys. This has been a civil conversation, even though it was a heated, I would say it wasn't really heated. The content is like the kind of content that is almost like plausible precursor for
Bring your
heat,
attention
but these
right
guys
here. It says
handled it
atheism
with
is
poise.
ignorance,
They were
it's
very
skepticism. There's
calm and equanimous. I can't remember the word exactly, but these guys were terrific. So,
Yeah, Johnny actually was interested in the conversation, and I think I was interested in what he had to say for once. So I think it was interesting.
I agree.
Yeah.
We had
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
plus I'm a single dad of 2 kids. I've got a ton of patience.
That's
I hear
true.
you.
A patience builder. We got one last super chat. I hope you guys don't mind if I just ask this. Especially, so sorry, folks. The super chats I didn't get to read for the last debate. Seriously sorry. If that happens, like, I'm dead serious. I would not think you're stingy or a jerk if you sent me an email and said, hey, like, I was the person who sent that $2 or $5 super chat. I'll Venmo it to you because I want to keep that promise of trying to read every super chat because we appreciate the support. It allows us to do things like that debate tour coming up with Inspiring Philosophy and Matt Dillahunty. Helios575, thanks for your super chat. They said, G-Man explained the morality of God sending 2 bears to kill 42 children because a small group of boys made fun of Elisha for being bald in 2 Kings 2:23 through 24.
Well, the law says that you're supposed to honor your mother and your father in the land. I'm sorry. The Bible says that we should honor your mother and your father, and so that you may live long in the land. It's a picture of respect.
I'm going to point out right here. The law says, honor thy mother and thy father. You get further into Exodus, where you get all the laws from. The reason why it says to honor thy mother and thy father so you'll live long in the land is because your parents could literally drag you to the edge of town and kill you for disobeying them. Okay? That is like one of the most hypocritical answers that right there is just kind of stupid. It's irritating for one. But on top of that, I don't see how this actually answers the question of, the morality of 2 bears being sent down to kill a bunch of kids.
You know what I mean? If you respect your mom and your dad, you respect everybody else. If you're growing up in the land of Israel in those days and you're being disrespectful to the prophets who are greater than your parents, you know what I mean? Then you're going to experience the judgment of God. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny that people bring up bears. People bring up getting killed for picking up sticks on a Sabbath day, and ignore what's going to happen if they die today. So
apparently he thinks he's used enough of the carrot to tempt us, so now he's going to use the stick.
end up going to judgment. It's the lake of fire for all of eternity. So, I believe that God is in the right because, you know what I mean? He told them in advance what would happen to them if they did it. You know what I mean? Is it legal? If you know it's illegal and you know the consequences, don't do it. You do it, you're going to be punished. You can't walk around here thinking you can break the law and think you're going to get away with it.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. Next up, Sigfredo Sarabia. Sorry I missed this. Just if I can do this really quick. They said, G-Man, how is Adam immoral before eating of the tree of good and evil?
I'm sorry, say that again?
They said, how is Adam immoral before eating of the tree of good and evil? So I
never said Adam was evil. Immoral before eating from the tree. I believe that mankind became immoral after they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That we became bad, we became evil afterward.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's see. Stupid Whore Energy.
Yeah, I love how this one right here. Jesus is the Lord. Man, you've got a really interesting outlook on how you read that Bible of yours, because it seems like anytime that it agrees with you, it's literal, but anytime that it doesn't agree with you, you've got some weird way to twist it. And I mean, I'm not 100% sure how you can stay that consistently intellectually dishonest.
G-Man, how do you walk a block without taking steps, G-Man?
That is funny.
You know, that's some type of joke or something.
That's funny. I don't know.
It's back to evolution again.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Saxy Calzone, yes, I do have a channel.
You got it. Oh gosh,
that
I'm
was the
so
first
sorry.
one I
I just
didn't
remembered. I
realize.
forgot to put your guys' links. Let me do that really quick. I'm seriously sorry about doing that. Folks, want to let you know, still got over 100 of you here partying with us. We appreciate it. I'm going to put both of their links in the description. I just got distracted because we were in between debates. So let me do that really quick. And thanks for your patience, folks. How embarrassing.
I'm going to let everyone know real quick. My main channel is actually for my kids. It's I modify Nerf guns and stuff like that for them. So I'll have a link to my secondary channel, which is my argument channel on that one.
Gotcha. What's the name of
Yeah,
your...
I'm gonna check that one out.
Okay, what's the name of the channel that you'd like us to link?
It's called Carnivorous Ape.
Okay, got you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can put my G-Man channel on there. My GTV channel, I'll keep that on the DL. But you can just let them know about the G-Man channel.
I think I might have... Okay, I found your Carnivorous Ape channel. And then G-Man, which one did you want me to put the classic G-Man one in? One from like...
Yeah, the GTV channel. I'm trying to get different people to watch that channel.
Wait a minute. Do you want this like new GTV channel, or do you want the...
No. I want the G-Man channel promoted. Not my GTV channel because I'm going to be making some changes on that channel soon. I'm trying to get different people to watch it.
Whereas GTV Network
Gotcha.
is what he calls his new one now.
So, okay, I've got... When I type in, G-Man, your SEO, your search engine optimization, I'm not trying to hark on you, bro, but I type in your name and I don't see your channel. The first thing that comes up is just a video from actual Jake that says G-Man rage quits. Yeah,
so type in XX0054. You'll find me like that. XX0054.
Gotcha. Wait, G-Man. Oh man, it's like some sort of tasteless joke, G-Man.
So if it's a tasteless joke, it's better I don't hear it, right?
I'm looking. Oh wait, is it? Yeah, is yours like /user because your channel is from like 1990? Let me.
No. It's XX as in X-ray, X-ray, 0054. If you type that, then you'll see my channel real fast. Or type in G-Man versus the Black Keep Original, so it'll show up that way too.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 sec. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I found it. Thanks for your patience, everybody. It's very embarrassing.
Video,
but we are excited.
I even misspelled G-Man.
It's been a wild one, folks.
Another G-Man over here that's got more subs than I do. They call him Government Man or whatever, and those channels usually show up first.
Correct.
Yeah. Let me find this here. You got it. That Hovind debate was something tonight. Really enjoyable. It's a nice lady. I think people...
What about if atheism is true? If atheism is true, then string theory must be true to explain the fine balanced harmonic patterns of the universe. If string theory is true, then God, pink pixies, unicorns, and spaghetti monsters exist. That's a little begging the question, but okay, if you think so.
People loved her, but when they get to see this debate, they're going to be like, oh snap, that was the hottest one of all. Give me a sec. Folks, want to let you know these guys have been super patient, super kind. Yeah, George Mayer, Johnny does have a YouTube channel. I'm linking it right now, like literally right now. So I'm putting Johnny's in, and now I'm going to put G-Man's in, and they are both going to be in here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. They're all both in there. Thanks for your patience, guys. And super chat from Stupid Whore Energy. Thanks for your super chat, Sarah. She says, G-Man, can you explain what you mean by at or above the allele frequency?
How did you know?
That has nothing to do with this debate whatsoever, and I'll answer that some other time.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with this debate whatsoever. That's an evolution question that they're asking me, and I'll answer that on GTV if they ask me that.
Sure.
But I'm not going to answer that here.
You
Ain't
got
got
it.
nothing to do with yeah.
Deal.
Well, I mean, it's been about 20 years since I took biology, but if you want to have if you want to have another discussion like this, then I'd be more than willing to give you a little bit of a mental challenge.
Gotcha. Thank you,
Well,
guys.
I'll debate you on evolution. I ain't got no problem with that, Johnny. I have no problem debating you on evolution.
Okay.
You know, the girl that was debating
I
Ken
find it interesting.
Hovind,
We actually had that discussion the other night.
for a little bit there, I thought she was winning for a little bit. That's the first time I think I ever sided with somebody other than Ken Hovind.
What made you think
and it
that?
was
I'm curious.
when it was arguing genetics, but
What part is there a specific like argument she had that made you think that? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, it's just how she handled herself with the argument on genetics. I felt like that her answers was a little bit more crisp than Kent for about a minute or two there. Kent recovered really fast though. I'm gonna review that part of it and put it on my GTV channel and talk about it. But for a little bit there, I was like, she's actually making sense here a little bit with what she was saying regarding the similarities between us and other animals. But again, when Kent started talking about intelligent design or having a common designer, because that's the way I would argue. You know what I mean? He made up for what I thought she was doing well.
Personally, I think that's a very dishonest way of arguing myself. When you're arguing over common design, actually, when you're arguing over anything, really, an appeal to emotion is some of the weakest arguments you can have. Okay. An appeal to authority is also a weak argument. Unless you're actually appealing to reason or actual evidence, which evidence is something that is true and corresponds with reality, then your argument's in some way, shape, or form going to be anecdotal. Okay, that is one issue that I have with any evidence that I take in. First thing I do is I attempt to verify the veracity of the evidence, and so far, no evidence whatsoever that I've seen that tries to claim the existence of any god has been verified.
But I'm gonna talk about it on GTV. But I think Hovind won that thing.
Gotcha.
I'll have to disagree with you. I do think that she won.
Well, that's
for a little bit there. I thought that she that she was doing good.
Oh no, I believe she explained it incredibly thoroughly for the time she did.
And she did. Shout out to Erica.
Very juicy. It was a fun one and very exciting. Thank you guys for being here tonight. It's always a pleasure. And thanks everybody for your questions tonight. Always a pleasure to hang out with you. This always lifts my spirits. So glad to have everybody here. We hope you guys have a great night. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable.
Goodbye.
Now, looking at that in total, going back to my criticisms on myself primarily, obviously I was criticizing not only myself, but G-Man and even James in the chat. But one thing that I did notice, I do have tendencies to not exactly drift, but I have tendencies to kind of fade in and out. I do have ADD. My attention does wander every now and then. I do have to actually try to focus on getting it back in check. It's not near as bad as it was, say, last year because of the crappy diet I was eating. But I'll post a video when I get a chance that will lay out my thought processes when it comes to everything that I am actually, I wouldn't say passionate about, but everything I'm idealistic about. If you guys want to see more of this, then I will start doing it. I do have I do have very few things that I can actually do that uh, sorry, this is my first time trying to use this thing. Hopefully I didn't just completely stop myself. I do look forward to immersing myself a little bit more into this community, but ultimately I am here to learn. I want to know viewpoints of both theists, atheists, and pretty much everything in between. I enjoy finding different points of view. I just have issues when it comes to those certain cult-like mentalities. Like I said, the difference is I am fully prepared to be respectful when it comes to interactions. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to come over here and criticize not only myself, but pretty much everyone involved, which I think is fair because this is my channel and this is what I intended on doing. I do find it kind of interesting that the like to dislike ratio over here on modern day debate is 106 likes to 3 dislikes. Seems like every time I've seen G-Man's channels, it's usually reversed. So I'm kind of wondering if the people are commenting and liking and everything like that on the opposite side just because it's somebody else's channel. I know G-Man's not very popular. He's definitely abrasive in certain ways, but he's not as bad as some people that I've actually had to interact with, not necessarily on the internet, but in real life. The guy that I met at Walmart who offered to show me his God, for instance, you know, I would definitely say that was an abrasive statement to make to somebody who was just explaining to somebody who was asking him a question. I mean, the guy walked up behind me and apparently was listening to what I had to say when I was explaining what an atheist was, because it was the standard, so you believe God doesn't exist. And so, no, there is actually a slight difference. I am not convinced that I'm not convinced that a God exists because I have not seen proper evidence of it. And this guy stomped over and turned around and said, well, if that's the way you feel, young man, then I have no issues personally showing you that God exists. And I turned around, stopped, and looked over at him, and it was like, hold on a second. So you're offering to kill me and send me to heaven to see that God exists, and then obviously spend time in hell. And he's like, and you're damn right about that. And it was like, okay, well then, you're psychotic, first of all, but at the same time, you have a good day because I'm getting the heck out of here. That's not something I feel like dealing with right now. And I do tend to ramble. Obviously, you should be able to notice that by now. I tend to do a lot of things. I have bad habits. I do smoke, but you're probably not going to see me smoke a whole lot on here unless I'm on my phone because I have kids in my house. I don't smoke in my house. I go outside and stuff. I am trying to quit, or I would like to quit, I should say. I just don't seem to have the willpower to do that. For some reason, it's a lot easier to completely stop eating sugar than it is to stop smoking. But unfortunately, that was something that I got into at a very young age. Congratulations for living in the 90s. Uh, but I will go on a little. I've already been up at this for a few hours now, so I will go ahead and post this video up. I'll make sure I put a link to all the articles that I see on my tabs, and hopefully I will see you guys sooner rather than later. I will catch you guys later.